Chapter 247. Taking out 2 good fortune pills at once. Wang Sheng did not even think about it and directly swallowed them into his stomach. His actions were so fast that the good fortune pills did not even have time to cause a phenomenon before they were swallowed. A few people vaguely sensed the aura of the good fortune pills, but they did not dare to confirm it. They could only shake their heads from a distance. It must be a mistake. With the efficacy of 2 good fortune pills, if it was before the Tao Tai transformation, Wang Sheng would definitely explode in minutes. But now, for Wang Sheng, this was not a problem. In the soul origin space, the Fushi soul origin spirit instantly transformed into the appearance of a Tao Tai. It opened its big mouth, and an endless amount of spiritual qi was crazily swallowed by the Tao Tai soul origin spirit. Wang Sheng did not pay much attention to the spiritual qi. He just started from the first new aperture point, and with the help of the spiritual qi, he slowly rotated it to form the Tai Chi Yin-Yang cyclone. At this time, the little person who had been watching from the sidelines also came to help. He had done the same thing 8 times before, and this time was no exception. The reason why he did not finish it at the same time as he advanced was because there was not enough spiritual qi. Now, with the good fortune pills to supplement the spiritual qi, the concentration of the outside spiritual qi had also returned to normal, so there was no need to worry about this. It would not be an exaggeration to describe Wang Sheng's current situation as a walk in the park. From the 1st to the 8th acupoint, Wang Sheng had only used 2 hours. Compared to the previous 8 acupoints, the speed at which the qi whirlpools formed was twice as fast. After the efficacy of the 2 good fortune pills repaired the details and internal injuries of Wang Sheng's body, it was completely swallowed by the Tao Tai soul origin spirit. In the end, he gulped down the medicinal power of the 2 smaller half pills in one gulp. After letting out a satisfied burp, his body quickly transformed into the form of a swan, carrying the huge monument on its back. This was the first time that Wang Sheng discovered that the soul origin spirit could return to its previous form. He did not know if the others had the same situation. Before Wang Sheng could find a suitable person to ask, Elder Sister Rosa came to his door again. This time, Elder Sister Rosa didn't come to say that there was a result for the medicinal pill. Instead, she came to deliver the killer card to Wang Sheng. After accumulating so many points, Wang Sheng's killer card was upgraded to Cyan level 6. After remaking it, Sister Rosa took the initiative to come to him. Last time I forgot. After making the new assassin card, I helped you hand in the mission to kill Dai Wuji. Now you're already a level 7 assassin. Sister Rosa's face was full of joy. She handed the Cyan assassin token to Wang Sheng, which was more exquisite than the white assassin token. If not for Sister Rosa's reminder, Wang Sheng would have forgotten that he had killed Dai Wuji. This was a lucrative job. Wang Sheng had offended too many people. Just the bounty missions in Carefree City alone numbered more than 10. The accumulated points were enough for Wang Sheng's assassin rank, which was already on the verge of breaking through, to rise once again. These are the rewards for the bounty. Sister Rosa didn't come alone. There was another person pushing a cart full of things. These things, including the hundreds of thousands of gold coins still stored in the Assassin's Hall, were all used for the bounty on Dai Wuji's head. There were too many gold coins, and it was impossible to bring them here. Therefore, they could only send the things here first. Wang Sheng took a rough look. There were 4 cultivation methods, several rare materials, a saber with a blade of 1.5 feet long, which was said to be a divine weapon. There were also 3 formation stones the size of a human head, 6 jade bottles containing medicinal pills, and a medicinal cauldron. The items were all good, especially the short saber. It was the style of the machete that Wang Sheng liked the most in the jungle. The medicinal pills were used to treat internal and external injuries. They weren't as magical as the pill of fortune, but they were still several times better than the high-quality goods that Wang Sheng bought from the Imperial Treasury in Baoqing Yutang. Wang Sheng had almost never used the formation stones. Although he had a whole set of binding formation with him, it needed dozens of people to activate it at the same time, and one person couldn't use it. The 3 formation stones were a protective formation. The trouble was that one person couldn't activate it. Only 3 people could stimulate it with spiritual qi at the same time. As for the medicinal cauldron and several rare materials, Wang Sheng didn't need them for the time being. However, these things are also good to keep here. They were all the best goods worth a lot of gold coins. On the other hand, the cultivation methods made Wang Sheng very happy. From the beginning to the end, the only cultivation method that Wang Sheng really practiced was the art of primeval chaos. Even the Heavenly King Fist was something that Wang Sheng didn't practice after studying the route of spiritual qi circulation. Now, there were 4 kinds of cultivation methods that were said to be good. Wang Sheng was like a long drought meeting a good rain. Before the negative body transformation, Wang Sheng only had 8 acupuncture points in his body. Although the absorption and output of spiritual qi from each acupuncture point was equivalent to 10 acupuncture points of ordinary people, the total number was small after all. With such a small number of acupuncture points, there was no need for any spiritual qi circulation route at all. Each acupuncture point could directly connect the hands and feet with the simplest route. But now it was different. If he still used this inefficient spiritual qi circulation route for 16 acupuncture points, Wang Sheng's combat effectiveness would definitely drop by at least 30% because of this. Once there were more acupuncture points, the spiritual qi would circulate in different acupuncture points according to the route. This required a delicate design. This was what cultivation methods did. Superior cultivation methods would provide efficient routes, and inferior cultivation methods would do the opposite. But in any case, it was indeed time for Wang Sheng to need a good cultivation method. Help me buy a few cultivation methods that are suitable for 15 to 16 acupuncture points. Wang Sheng didn't stand on ceremony with Sister Rosa and directly gave her another task. It's best if it's 16 acupuncture points. I want to use it. Sister Rosa's eyes suddenly lit up. Wang Sheng said it so clearly and actually revealed a lot of useful information to her so that she could explain to the sect behind her. Not to mention other things, if Sister Rosa still didn't understand that Wang Sheng now only had 16 acupuncture points, then she was really a fool. Legend had it that when Wang Sheng's soul was just enlightened, there was only 1 acupuncture point. Now that it was in the 3rd stage, there were 16 acupuncture points, which meant that Wang Sheng would have an average of 5 acupuncture points every time he leveled up. It could be said that this was already the most inferior of all the inferior origin souls that had a grade. From this, it seemed that it could also be inferred how many acupuncture points Dai Zhao's 9-star spirit souls had. In Carefree City, as long as one had a background like Wang Sheng's, one could easily find dozens of cultivation techniques to use the 16 acupoints. Sister Rosa also knew what was good and what was bad. After carefully selecting, she chose 5 cultivation methods and sent them to Wang Sheng. All of them only needed 16 acupuncture points to be cultivated, but the emphasis was different. One focused on speed, one focused on strength, 2 on overall improvement, and the last one was to increase recovery power. With Wang Sheng's current situation, he should be able to cultivate all the cultivation methods without interfering with each other. It all depended on how Wang Sheng chose. Chapter 248. Do all the disciples in your sect develop in such a balanced way? Wang Sheng took the cultivation method and looked at the introduction attached by Sister Rosa. Then, he asked curiously, "It's okay if it's not convenient to answer." This was equivalent to inquiring about the sect's secrets. Wang Sheng would not force her too much. If she could say it, then she would say it. If she couldn't, then there was no need to say it. In the basic stage, try to be balanced. Sister Rosa did not hide at all. In fact, at her level, she did not know much. She only knew a little more than the basic stage. Everyone has their own strengths. When you cultivate in a balanced way, don't forget to make your advantages as much as possible. Wang Sheng nodded. This sect cultivation method was not bad. The advantages must be maintained, and the whole must be balanced. It seemed to be a relatively stable sect. As far as Wang Sheng knew, there were a few sect cultivation methods that went to the extremes. The advantages were extremely advantageous, and the others were a mess. It couldn't be said which sect was right or wrong. It could only be said that each cultivation route was different. Thinking about his own situation, the dragon gave birth to 9 sons. He was afraid that it would involve strengthening all aspects of the body. Therefore, a relatively balanced development was more suitable for Wang Sheng's situation. After making up his mind, Wang Sheng thanked Sister Rosa. When he was alone, Wang Sheng opened these cultivation methods. The Ao Tianju obtained from Tang Ao was very powerful, but involved 45 apertures. Tang Ao only started to cultivate in the 5th stage. If Wang Sheng wanted to cultivate this Ao Tianju, he was afraid that he would need to reach the 6th stage to reach the number of apertures. Although the cultivation methods that Sister Rosa brought over had been selected by her, they were after all common goods that could be bought from the market. Even if they were exquisite, they were not exquisite. However, Wang Sheng did not need to worry about this. The part related to combat cultivation could be solved as long as there was a small person with combat consciousness. In the past, there was a doppelganger of the imp with combat consciousness who specialized in studying Ao Tianju. From the words that the imp with combat consciousness occasionally communicated with him, Wang Sheng could guess that the reason why the imp with combat consciousness optimized Ao Tianju was that it wanted Wang Sheng to cultivate Ao Tianju when he had 2 acupoints at that time. Obviously, this was a relatively time-consuming and laborious action, and it was also unnecessary. What Wang Sheng needed was not to lower the cultivation requirements for high-level cultivation techniques, but to optimize the low-level cultivation techniques that he could use. Wang Sheng carefully read through the 5 cultivation techniques. Then, as Wang Sheng had expected, the 5 clones of the tiny person with combat consciousness started to reinterpret the 5 cultivation techniques according to the number of apertures Wang Sheng had now and rearranged the spiritual qi routes. Just this alone saved Wang Sheng a lot of trouble. From now until he brought people into the grounds of Thousand Despair, Wang Sheng only needed to adapt to the new realm. 10 days passed by in a flash. Just as Wang Sheng had mentioned a month ago, the housekeeper sent someone to invite Wang Sheng and brought Wang Sheng to the front yard of the Castellan's residence. Here, there were already 10 people waiting for Wang Sheng. They were the first batch of people carefully selected by the Castellan's residence to follow Wang Sheng in and out of the grounds of Thousand Despair. Among the 10 people, there were men and women, but there were a few similarities. Firstly, they were all young. The oldest one looked to be in his 30s, and the youngest one was about the same age as Wang Sheng. Secondly, everyone's cultivation was similar. Almost all of them were in the 4th degree realm. Wang Sheng mentioned the conditions, saying that they needed to be in the 4th degree realm or above, so they really chose people in the 4th degree realm. Maybe they felt that people of this age and realm were similar to Wang Sheng, so Wang Sheng wouldn't feel threatened. Of course, they didn't rule out the possibility of deliberately using people in the 4th degree realm to test if the journey was smooth and if Wang Sheng really wanted to bring everyone in. Even if there were any mishaps, these aristocratic families wouldn't lose too many powerful experts. Lone Wolf, there are no more bounties on your head in the whole world. All the families and sects who had grudges with you have let go of their hatred. Brother Housekeeper said this to Wang Sheng in front of the 10 people, including the Dai family. Let bygones be bygones. These are the people you've chosen to bring into the grounds of Thousand Despair. If you have any instructions, you can mention it in advance. After saying that, the Lord Housekeeper stepped aside and Wang Sheng walked in front of everyone. Everyone knows who I am, so I won't introduce myself. At that moment, Wang Sheng was facing 10 experts who were eager to give it a try. He felt as though he was bullying rookies in a training camp back on Earth. Putting on the air of a military instructor, he started lecturing the 10 of them. I don't know who you are, what's your name, which family or sect you're from. To be honest, I don't want to know either. Wang Sheng looked at the 10 people in front of him from head to toe, lecturing them while muttering in his heart. If these fellows were in the military camp on Earth, they would be drilled to death on the first day. If they didn't stand or sit properly, the new squad leader would give them a hard time. Only here, those rules didn't work, so they could be so casual. But as the person who will lead you through the grounds of thousand despair. Wang Sheng paused for a moment and looked at them from head to toe. Sure enough, their expressions changed because of this sentence, and they were filled with anticipation. Wang Sheng continued, I need to know your cultivation realm and what weapons you're proficient in so that I can make targeted arrangements. His words were so clear that anyone could understand. So when Wang Sheng looked at the first person on the left, that expert raised his hand. 4th stage, late stage, sword. Simple and clear. Wang Sheng nodded and looked at the second person. 4th stage, late stage, sword. 4th stage, peak, spear. 4th stage, mid stage, bow, an arrow, long blade. 4th stage, mid stage, array, dagger. 4th stage, late stage, alchemy, fist and leg. 4th stage, peak, hammer. 10 of them, and as Wang Sheng had expected, they were all in the 4th stage realm. The strongest was at the 4th stage peak, and the weakest was at the 4th stage mid-stage. Relatively speaking, their cultivation realms were balanced. However, there was a wide variety of weapons, saber, spear, bow, and arrow, dagger, and whatnot. Since everyone is going to follow me in and out of the grounds of thousand despair, there must be rules for so many of you. Wang Sheng nodded his head after listening and didn't comment further. He started to talk about his rules. Otherwise, it will be a mess, and I can't guarantee that everyone will be able to come out alive. These words were a blatant threat, and there was no concealment at all. But everyone seemed to be mentally prepared, and just listened quietly. No one said a word. Let's talk about the first rule. Wang Sheng didn't care about what everyone was thinking, and said his own request. I know you guys don't like me. It's okay. I don't care. But there is an iron rule that you must remember. After entering the grounds of thousand despair, if you're not willing to do what I ask you to do, you can choose not to do it. Wang Sheng's words stunned everyone. Choose not to do. What did he mean? Was this an iron rule? Chapter 249. However, the things that I don't want you to do, you must not do it. The words must not do were uttered by Wang Sheng after stressing every word. Afraid that they would not take it seriously enough, Wang Sheng emphasized again, this is an iron rule. If you violate it, you will have to bear the consequences. The 10 of them listened, but no one said anything. However, Wang Sheng could already see the unwillingness in their eyes. Wang Sheng did not care about these gazes, nor did he want to care. Those who were unconvinced would naturally suffer. One had to know that suffering in the grounds of thousand despair was basically equivalent to having 1 foot in the coffin. Was there a need for Wang Sheng to be calculative with a few people who already had 1 foot in the coffin? Sir Butler. Wang Sheng turned his head and called out to the butler who was listening at the side. Please pass on this sentence to all those who want to follow us into the grounds of thousand despair. The butler nodded and said, leave it to me. Then, he did not say anything else. Second, I will do my best to ensure that those who cooperate with me can return safely and alive. Wang Sheng's second rule was relatively less murderous. His tone was much gentler. However, I cannot guarantee that you will learn anything from it. You can watch, you can listen, and you can think about it on your own. However, if you have any questions, don't ask me. I will definitely not answer them. Furthermore, after entering the grounds of thousand despair, I will not explain anything or give any orders. If you want to listen, then don't listen. Although compared to the first iron rule, this rule did not sound very strict, but smart people could hear many things from it. First, it was the people who cooperated. Second, it was whether they wanted to listen or not. These 2 words were actually worth pondering. What would happen to those who did not cooperate? What would happen to those who did not listen? Even though Wang Sheng did not say what the outcome would be, they were not fools. How could they not guess what the outcome would be? For now, there are only these 2 rules. Wang Sheng didn't like to waste time either. After explaining the 2 rules, he immediately gave an order to everyone. Now, I'll give you 5 days to prepare. Gather here in the morning after 5 days. We'll go to the inner city and get used to the environment within a radius of 10 days later. We'll officially set off for the lands of thousand despair. With that, Wang Sheng turned to leave. Suddenly, a voice came from behind Wang Sheng. We are ready. We can depart now. Wang Sheng, who was about to take a step forward, stopped and turned around. What he saw was not one person's unconvinced eyes, but the eyes of all 10 people in front of him. Wang Sheng didn't even need to ask who said it. If he asked anyone, they would probably admit it. Ready? A mocking smile appeared on Wang Sheng's face as he swept his gaze across everyone's faces. He snorted coldly and said in a pleasant tone, "Believe me, you're not prepared at all. Now, you can go home or go to the Hall of Assassins. Find those experienced old hunters and ask them what they need to prepare for the lands of Thousand Despair. Prepare your things and learn how to use them. Come back after you've learned them." "We're ready." One of the 3 women in the group, who was dressed the most brightly and looked the youngest, repeated the words that had been spoken by someone else. She spoke to Wang Sheng in a provocative and flirtatious manner. Wang Sheng's gaze landed on the woman's body and looked her up and down for a while. The woman seemed to be very confident in her appearance and figure. Not only did she not shy away, she even puffed out her chest and proudly stared at Wang Sheng. "All right." Wang Sheng finally put away the lecherous gaze that had caused the other 2 women to feel disgusted and said, "For the sake of these beautiful women with long legs and big breasts, I'll teach you a lesson today." Walking up to the first expert on the left, Wang Sheng asked the male expert, "Excuse me, what weapon did you bring?" "It's a 5-foot-long sword I like the most." The male expert stretched out his hand and revealed his own sword. It was indeed a 5-foot-long sword. Although the blade could not be seen, one could tell that it was an excellent weapon just by looking at the edge. "Anything else?" Wang Sheng asked. "Nothing else." The male expert puffed out his chest and said proudly, "As long as I have a sword in my hand, I can go anywhere in the world." Wang Sheng slapped his forehead and made a pained expression as if he had been defeated. After a while, he raised his head and asked, "If you're in a place where there's no road and the surroundings are filled with jungle and vines, and a demonic beast happens to be attacking you, how can you use your 5-foot-long sword?" 5 foot was specially emphasized. Using a 5-foot-long weapon in a narrow place. If he wasn't retarded, then he didn't have a brain. The male expert was also a little confused by Wang Sheng's question. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. Should he say that he used his sword to cut off all the vines, or should he say that he used his spiritual energy to break them? In any case, there was a way. "Oh yes, there's a group of people who claimed to be 5th-degree experts who were chasing after me. When they were blocked by a few ape kings by the river, a group of people took their magical weapons and chopped down trees to make rafts." Without waiting for him to answer this question, Wang Sheng had already opened his mouth. "That was interesting." Clicking his tongue in admiration, he asked with a smile, "Have you seen the scene of an ape king grabbing a person and biting half of them off?" A 5th-degree expert had been bitten off, and the male expert was only at the peak of the 4th-degree realm. Even if he wanted to refute, he couldn't find any good reason and could only remain silent. "If you don't want to use your 5-foot-long sword to chop down trees, then hurry up and prepare a 2-foot-long machete." Wang Sheng shouted at the male expert. "Also, if you don't want to use the 5-foot-long sword to peel off some fruit to eat, then bring a smaller machete. Bring your long sword or not, as long as it doesn't hinder your movement." After Wang Sheng finished speaking to this man, he turned to the other person who introduced his weapon as a spear and said fiercely, "The one with the long weapon, do you know what to do?" The one with the long spear did not wait for Wang Sheng to walk to him and gave an "O" from afar, indicating that he had heard Wang Sheng's words. The beauty with long legs and big breasts who had just spoken was the second one. Wang Sheng walked in front of her and lowered his head to look at her brightly colored dress, as well as the sliver of fair skin that was revealed under the dress. He raised his head and smiled at her, asking in a pleasant manner, "Beauty, do you know how Dai Wuji died? Do you want to know?" Hearing Wang Sheng's question, the expressions of the 10 people all changed. Even the people from the Castellan's manor who were not far away pricked up their ears. The cause of Dai Wuji's death had always been sealed by the Dai family. Outsiders did not know the reason, but everyone knew that it was done by Wang Sheng. Could it be that Wang Sheng was going to announce the answer now? Chapter 250. 7th-degree Realm Expert. Unfortunately, he likes to fish bare-legged. This was the first time Wang Sheng had mentioned the details of the assassination of Dai Wuji in front of unrelated people. Everyone's ears perked up, afraid to miss out a single word, including the beauty who was scolded by Wang Sheng. A small spider from 1,000 wits grounds, so small. Wang Sheng used his little finger to show everyone the size of the spider, just a light sting on his leg, and then he couldn't move anymore. He fell into the water and drowned. Do you think that you are a beauty with delicate skin that the bugs from the 1,000 wits grounds don't like? So you intentionally revealed your skin? Wang Sheng stared straight at the beauty's face as he examined her. My dress can be folded up without revealing my skin. Under Wang Sheng's scrutinizing gaze, the beauty could no longer maintain her earlier arrogance, as she lowered her head slightly, as though she was trying to evade his gaze. Huh! Wang Sheng raised his head and let out a loud laugh. With a smile on his face, he brazenly looked at the beauty's body up and down. Not showing any skin, very good. Have you ever seen a few experts wearing protective suits of armor without exposing their skin? However, some unknown and extremely small insects manage to worm their way through the gaps in their armor and bite them a few times? Wang Sheng asked with a smile on his face. Those few fellows felt great. After being bitten, they felt so good that they used their own hands to strip off all their clothes. Later on, they still felt that it wasn't enough, so they scratched their own skin bit by bit until their whole body was covered in blood, attracting a large group of ants to crawl on their bodies as clothes. Without waiting for the beauty to reply, Wang Sheng once again took the initiative to answer. What a beautiful scene! Wang Sheng revealed a longing expression as his gaze swept across the beauty's entire body. Beauty, your figure is so good, your skin is so beautiful, and your nails are also slightly sharper. When the time comes to peel off your skin, you will definitely look prettier than those stinky men. I can't wait. Thinking of the miserable deaths described by Wang Sheng, even the strongest beauty couldn't bear it, as she directly screamed, and her eyes revealed a look of fear. Not only the beauty opposite Wang Sheng, but all the other 3 beauties in the team also screamed. Although the other men didn't scream out, their faces were also unnatural. For cultivators, death was nothing to be afraid of. What was scary was the unimaginable way of death, especially the imagination of being skinned and fed to all kinds of disgusting and horrible bugs. It made them want to vomit. What a beautiful dress, such a bright color, those flowers and honey bugs. Wang Sheng took a step forward and impudently pulled up a corner of the beauty's clothes. Looking at the beautiful patterns on it, he nodded in satisfaction and said. He sniffed the air, and a faint fragrance wafted through the air. Wang Sheng praised again. You even sprayed some perfume powder on it. How fragrant! Even I like the smell so much. Those hungry monsters definitely don't have such a good sense of aesthetics like me. They definitely won't follow the smell to find me. The poisonous insects that like the smell will definitely avoid it. The series of ironic words almost made the beautiful woman lower her head to the ground and dare not raise it again. She even completely forgot to dodge Wang Sheng's impolite actions. She even forgot that her cultivation should be higher than Wang Sheng's. Oh, your dress is also very beautiful. Wang Sheng walked in front of the second beauty and praised. This beauty's figure was not as exaggerated as the previous one, but her well-trained figure was still very pleasing to the eye. I just don't know if the thorns will affect my movement if they hang on my dress. The second beauty didn't provoke Wang Sheng much, so Wang Sheng's words were a little gentler, not as harsh as before. There's one more problem, beauty. Without waiting for the beauty to reply, Wang Sheng said to the beauty with a smile, after entering the land of 1,000 despair, you might not be able to take a bath for 10 days to half a month. So remember to take a bath before you set off. Don't sweat and get exposed to the sun and rain for a few days and become smelly. After saying that, Wang Sheng didn't stop and walked in front of the third beauty, who was also wearing a dress. This time, without waiting for Wang Sheng to say anything, the beauty directly admitted, I am not ready yet. I will go back to prepare now. Wang Sheng nodded, acknowledging the third beauty's attitude. He then took a step forward and faced the spear-wielding expert behind the beauty. "How much food and drink did you prepare?" Wang Sheng asked in a gentle manner. "I brought enough food for 10 days and not much to drink. I should be able to get some water, right?" The spear-wielding expert didn't dare to talk back and answered truthfully. "You have guts." Wang Sheng gave him a thumbs up. "I remember that one of the people who chased after me was also gutsy. I think he was a 5th-degree expert. Guess how he died in the end?" The spear-wielding expert didn't know Wang Sheng's answer and didn't know what he did wrong. He could only shake his head. "Diarrhea. He had diarrhea for 3 whole days. Have you ever seen a strong man turn into a pile of mud?" Wang Sheng didn't hesitate to ridicule. He didn't even have the strength to take out a poison from his body. He spent half a day before he successfully committed suicide. You wouldn't want to know that he was suffering from diarrhea right before he died from the poison. Are you looking forward to this scene? Patting the spear-wielding expert on the shoulder, Wang Sheng wagged his thumb at him and said, "To think that you would dare to drink water from the 1,000 despair grounds. Personally, I admire you. You really have guts." The moment the spear-wielding expert thought of a 5th-degree expert dying from diarrhea, the spear-wielding expert couldn't help but shiver. Even though he hadn't entered the land of 1,000 despair, he already had a deep fear of it. "Do you have any protection against the miasma?" Wang Sheng walked to the side of the strong man and asked. "Yes, I have 20 poison-dispelling pills." The strong man had already calmed down. He knew that Wang Sheng was reminding them of their lack of preparation. So he didn't resist and replied honestly, "I also have pills for internal and external injuries. As long as you think it's enough." Wang Sheng smiled at the strong man and said non-committally, "However, there's a man called Tang Ao in the Tang family. He followed me in the miasma forest for 3 days and 3 nights. He used up all his poison-dispelling pills, and in the end, he didn't even have the strength to commit suicide. When he felt bugs crawling on his body, a 5th-degree expert cried and begged me to kill him. You must have never seen or imagined such a scene." Chapter 251. Wang Sheng did not tell them how to prepare and only described the limited deaths of the experts who had followed Wang Sheng into the grounds of 1,000 extremes. This made the 10 fellows who had thought that they were prepared to enter the grounds of 1,000 extremes realize that they were completely unprepared. After Wang Sheng had left for a long time, the people at the scene finally started to make their move. Including the housekeeper, everyone was frightened by Wang Sheng's description of the terrifying situation in the grounds of 1,000 extremes. No one had entered the depths of the grounds of 1,000 extremes before, and no one knew what it was like inside. From Wang Sheng's few words, the crowd was able to gather some clues. However, this was far from enough. It could only be said that a small corner of the iceberg had been revealed. What Wang Sheng had said was at most to let the crowd understand that their previous preparations were not complete. From food and water, to clothing, to weapons, elixirs, and even psychological preparations, they were all not up to standard. After understanding this, the various parties immediately sought out veteran hunters from various channels to consult them on their experiences in the wilderness and to make new preparations. While Baoqing Yutang was buying some necessities, the crowd occasionally heard from the shopkeeper that Wang Sheng had once used Baoqing Yutang's channels to invite a grandmaster from Linglong Pavilion to make a complete set of clothing and boots. When this news spread, it immediately made everyone pay attention to it. Everyone looked for Baoqing Yutang, wanting to know what Wang Sheng had customized at that time. Baoqing Yutang did not conceal anything, and after receiving a small consultation fee, Wang Sheng's complete set of protective armor was revealed to everyone. Strong outer clothing and pants made from the skin of a 6th-degree demonic beast, boots made from the skin of a 5th-degree demonic beast, and bone plates. Although Wang Sheng had not customized his head and neck, his helmet, goggles, and hard mask had been seen and described by others. In fact, Baoqing Yutang had obtained Wang Sheng's authorization before he dared to reveal these things to the public. A portion of the profits would be given to Wang Sheng. On the other hand, everyone acted as if they had found treasure. They were analyzing the pros and cons of Wang Sheng's equipment. It would be too late to make it in a few days, so he could only buy it from Baoqing Yutang at a high price. What was strange was that Baoqing Yutang had done a lot of business here, but there was no movement from the imperial treasure house. Even Wang Sheng was a little surprised. He had greeted the shopkeeper of the imperial treasure house before, and it seemed that the shopkeeper of the imperial treasure house came with the shopkeeper of the Baoqing Yutang. Wang Sheng had already nodded. If the imperial treasure house did not do anything, then it was not Wang Sheng's problem. Wang Sheng wouldn't care about this. As long as he waited for the time to come, he would take his people and leave. He didn't care about anything else. It had to be said that the things that Wang Sheng had explained to the 10 people before were really a bit scary. In these 5 days, in addition to preparing equipment that met Wang Sheng's requirements, all parties invited some experienced old hunters to consult and teach them the experience of jungle life. It was really a case of not learning and not knowing. It was not until they learned many taboos from the mouth of those old hunters that all parties realized how wrong it was to think that one could enter and exit the land of Thousand Despair as long as one's cultivation was high. If they had known this earlier and paid attention to it earlier, perhaps not so many of the experts who had entered the land of Thousand Despair would have died. Perhaps 1 or 2 of them would have been lucky enough to enter and exit, and so on. Perhaps there were many, but everyone knew that there was no such thing as if in this world. Boy, aren't you afraid that they will get rid of you after learning from those old hunters? The old eunuch was waiting to see the results, so the royal family did not place any manpower in the beginning. Now that he knew a lot of information, he chatted with Wang Sheng while drinking. They want to enter and exit the land of Thousand Despair after learning a few moves from the old hunters? Wang Sheng clinked glasses with the old eunuch and smiled disdainfully. Then how many of them will enter and how many won't be able to come out? Do you want to bet? Did they really think that they could disregard the land of Thousand Despair just because they had the skills of an old hunter? Others might not dare to speak for themselves, but take Wang Sheng as an example. He had undergone scientific wilderness survival training, and his cultivation was not bad. However, if he did not have his battle instincts, he would have died many times over in the lands of despair. Wang Sheng wished that those people would think of the land of Thousand Despair in a simpler way. That way, he would be able to highlight his importance in the future. Unfortunately, there were no fools in this world. With Wang Sheng leading the way, there was no need for the parties to blindly explore the land of Thousand Despair. Wouldn't it be better to follow Wang Sheng in and out of the land of Thousand Despair first? They had already waited for 500 years. It did not matter if it was a few months earlier or a few months later. 5 days passed by in the blink of an eye. On the morning of the 6th day, when Wang Sheng arrived at the city lord's manor, he saw 10 people wearing the same equipment as Wang Sheng. There were no zippers. Instead, they used several layers of buttons. Their boots were also laced with high tops, providing excellent protection. Very good. Wang Sheng was finally satisfied. At least, he was satisfied with the protection of their clothes. Each of them brought a 2-foot-long machete. This was Wang Sheng's request. They even brought small knives with them. They didn't leave their long weapons outside. They either stored them in their respective storage rings, or they didn't use them and exchanged them for short weapons that they were comfortable with. They brought plenty of food and water. They also brought as many antidote pills as they could. Food and drink utensils, salt, rope, fire knives, flint, and flint were not left behind. They did not dare to say that they were well equipped, but at least they looked somewhat presentable. Next, we need to get used to the environment within a radius of 5 kilometers from a city. Wang Sheng had already said this before. No one objected when he repeated it. It was good to get used to the environment in advance. Everyone could tell the difference between good and bad. Everyone in the team came from different factions. In just a few days, they would have to get used to each other. They might not be able to achieve the level of tacit understanding that Wang Sheng's team had back on Earth, but at the very least, they had to know how to work together. I repeat, if you don't want to do what I want you to do, you don't have to. Wang Sheng repeated this sentence in front of many people on the city wall. But you absolutely cannot do what I don't want you to do. Do you hear me? Yes. A few people responded in unison. Wang Sheng could tell that some people were still unconvinced. The team set off. One person led the way while the others followed. They had to get used to this method of travel first. There were no roads in the land of despair. All roads had to be made this way. Pay attention to the footsteps of the people in front. It's best to step on the footsteps of your companions in front. Wang Sheng reminded everyone. He looked back and reminded the 6 or 7 people behind him, walk normally. Do not touch that yellow vine. Chapter 252. There were 11 of them, with 3 or 4 at the front, Wang Sheng in the middle, and 6 or 7 at the back. Basically, Wang Sheng took the lead and gave some simple instructions on how to pave the way. The team lined up in a straight line, and with everyone's equipment, it looked like a standard exploration team. The yellow vine that Wang Sheng was talking about was the one that had hung down from a tree when they passed by earlier. There were a few other similar vines around it, and there didn't seem to be anything unusual. Even when the people in front walked past it, they didn't feel anything was wrong. But Wang Sheng actually turned around and specifically told them not to touch the vine. What did he mean? Some of them recalled the iron rule that Wang Sheng had mentioned a few days ago, as well as before they set off not long ago. Things that were forbidden were not to be done. Perhaps this was Wang Sheng's way of establishing his authority in the team. Some people in the team followed the rule. Didn't it mean not to touch anything? There were many dangers in the grounds of despair, and it was common sense not to touch things that you didn't know. Since Wang Sheng didn't allow them to touch it, then they wouldn't touch it. It was no big deal. Most of those who could cultivate to the 4th stage could suppress their curiosity. The problem was there was a small group of people who were the opposite. Not only were they very curious, but deep down, they didn't accept Wang Sheng at all. Especially when Wang Sheng had trampled on their dignity a few days ago, it was still fresh in their minds, and they were very unhappy. Since Wang Sheng didn't allow them to touch the vine, someone insisted on touching it. The 4th sword-wielding young man behind Wang Sheng sneered as he followed the footsteps of his companions in front of him. When he walked to the side of the vine, he deliberately stopped. Just when everyone noticed his action, he slowly stretched out his hand and grabbed the yellow vine. When he stretched out his hand, the sword-wielding young man's gaze was fixed on Wang Sheng's expression. Unfortunately, he didn't see any expression of anger on Wang Sheng's face, nor did he show any signs of anger due to his authority being challenged. There was only a kind of pity in Wang Sheng's eyes, as if he was looking at a dead man. For a moment, the sword-wielding young man wanted to stop his movements. But after all, he was still young. His cultivation rose quickly, and his mental state might not be very stable. With so many people looking at him, wouldn't it make him lose face if he retreated? Therefore, not only did he not stop his actions, but he also sped up his grabbing. As soon as his hand grabbed the rattan that was originally hanging down suddenly rolled up from below. The bottom end of the rattan touched the young man's finger at lightning speed, and then quickly hung down again. The rattan's movements were fast, but everyone present was a 4th-degree realm expert, and they could see it clearly. It wasn't a vine at all, but a snake disguised as a vine. Its withered yellow body hung down and looked no different from the vines around it. However, its open mouth and glistening poisonous fangs could not be hidden from everyone's eyes. The sword-wielding young man was rooted to the spot. It wasn't that he didn't want to move, but he suddenly couldn't. He felt pain on his finger. He could clearly see that the 5th-degree realm demonic beast's leather gloves couldn't block the poisonous fangs of this poisonous snake and was directly bitten through. 2 thin needle-like holes appeared on the gloves, and then he felt that half of his hand had gone numb. Following that, he wanted to use his cultivation to resist, but his whole body felt numb. "Don't move!" Everyone was shocked, and just as they were about to attack, Wang Sheng's deep voice suddenly rang in everyone's ears. If it was the state when they set off, not many people would listen to Wang Sheng's words. But Wang Sheng had just said not to touch the rattan, and the consequences of touching the rattan was so terrifying. Wang Sheng immediately said not to move, so who dared to move? Everyone had now firmly remembered Wang Sheng's iron rule. If he asked you to do something, you can choose not to do it, but if he didn't, you must never do it. Everyone stood on the spot, not daring to move. 11 people suddenly turned into 11 wooden puppets, not moving at all. A hissing sound could be heard, and then everyone saw a horrifying scene. All the yellow rattan that was hanging down from the tree slowly turned up from the bottom. Every rattan was the same poisonous snake that bit the sword-wielding young man, spitting out its blood-red tongue, looking around vigilantly. There was no movement, and all of them turned up on the tree, no longer hanging down, and slowly slithered along the tree trunk, leaving very quickly. At this time, Wang Sheng then called out, "If you have learned how to treat snake bites, immediately give him first aid, and then carry him back quickly. Maybe he can still be saved." But Wang Sheng was just saying it. He had no intention to do it himself. A guy who disobeyed his orders and went against him. On what basis should Wang Sheng save him? The two companions who were closest to the young man immediately supported him, cut open the wound, let out some blood, and fed him some antidote. It was a mess. They were all from several big families, and they may even know each other. At this time, no one would be embarrassed not to save him. After a simple first aid in a hurry, everyone carried the young man back along the original road at an unprecedented speed. In a moment, they saw the city gate of the great land of despair. The people on the city wall had not yet dispersed, but Wang Sheng and the others had already turned back. Many people did not leave and just watched the scene on the city wall. Someone was bitten by a snake. Someone shouted the reason from afar, and there was a commotion at the city gate. "We have snake medicine in the imperial treasury." A voice sounded like a stabilizing needle, overshadowing all the commotion. When Wang Sheng heard this voice, he instantly understood why the imperial treasury did not take action before. It turned out that they were waiting here. It seemed that they had researched something according to Wang Sheng's method. Well, Wang Sheng needed some anesthetics and painkillers, so he could ask them for them. Some people rushed out quickly to help with the treatment, while others began to ask what happened. When they heard the whole story, everyone looked at Wang Sheng with a stunned expression. What he said should not be done, really should not be done casually. How do you know those are snakes? Why didn't they bite you when you passed by, but only after he grabbed you? A female voice came to Wang Sheng's ears. It was Ling the young master of the imperial treasury, Marquis Lu Wenho's favorite little maid. Wang Sheng looked at Ling who came out of the crowd, smiled and shook his head, but did not speak. Some people immediately understood that this should be the second rule that Wang Sheng said, no explanation. Ling probably also heard of these two rules of Wang Sheng and was not annoyed. She said to Wang Sheng, "If you tell me the reason, the imperial treasury will help you prepare all the new drugs for free." "You mentioned it last time." "I know because I have seen it." Wang Sheng finally opened his mouth, and it should be that he agreed with Ling proposal. He simply replied, "They don't bite people because they are sleeping. As long as they are not touched, it is okay to get close to them, but someone was stupid enough to wake them up." Chapter 253. Once the Imperial Treasure House's snake medicine was launched, it made a huge advertisement under the watchful eyes of the public. Although the young man had undergone a simple first aid and bloodletting, he had lost 2 out of 3 souls and 6 out of 7 spirits, and was waiting for death. He actually survived after using the Imperial Treasure House's new snake medicine. However, although he survived, he couldn't stand up in a short period of time. According to Ling memories, the withered vine snake's shape was only given a quarter of an hour after it bit a person. Even if the person was to bleed on the spot, it would still be the same. If the person exceeded this time, not to mention a 4th-degree realm youngster, even an 8th-degree realm expert would die. Fortunately, the team had just set off for a few minutes and returned quickly, finally within a quarter of an hour. After using the Imperial Treasure House's snake medicine, the black gas in the young man's face slowly dissipated and his life was finally saved. However, after all, it was not specifically for the dry vine snake. It was just a broad-spectrum anti-snake poison. So although the young man from the Chiu family's life was not in danger, he would need at least half a year to recover. This was already extremely lucky. When he was bitten by the snake, there were companions around him, and those companions even extended a helping hand. If he was alone, he would have been paralyzed on the spot after being bitten, and he would have died. Hundreds of Imperial Treasure House's snake medicine were ordered on the spot. However, When everyone saw that the Imperial Treasure House also provided several other kinds of medicinal powders and medicines to Wang Sheng, they asked curiously and found out that the Imperial Treasure House had actually accepted Wang Sheng's commission and started to research anti-snake poison medicinal pills since 2 years ago. At the same time, they also developed painkillers, hemostatic medicines, and so on. Even Wang Sheng had specially customized various medicinal pills. What else was there to ask? Whatever Wang Sheng took, everyone should hurry up and take it. If they were late, there would be no dregs. One must know that the Imperial Treasure House only prepared a limited amount of goods this time, which was more than enough for 11 people. But they couldn't afford to send people into the Thousand Despair later on. 10 times the price in Worry-Free City was nothing at this moment. As long as they could save their lives, what was gold coins? In the blink of an eye, the medicine prepared by the Imperial Treasure House was bought out, and those who couldn't buy it could only place an order first and wait for a while to get the goods. Even though this was just a small interlude in their journey into the Ground of Despair, everyone other than Wang Sheng was still shocked by the cruelty of the Ground of Despair. This was indeed the Thousand Despair, but this was just the periphery of the Thousand Despair. Moreover, they had only walked for a few minutes, and it was already so dangerous just after entering the forest. What kind of horror was inside? Furthermore, everyone thought that there weren't many dangers outside the Worry-Free City. Who would have thought that there would be such a terrifying, venomous, withered vine snake? Of course, there was another phenomenon that could not be ignored. The reason the young man was bitten by the snake was because he had violated Wang Sheng's prohibition. Wang Sheng had clearly told him not to touch the yellow vine. Yet, the young man had deliberately reached out to touch it. He had only himself to blame. This matter was clearly seen and heard clearly by all 11 people, including the young man from the Chiu family who had been bitten by the snake. From this incident, it could only be said that the iron rule of Wang Sheng was not made up by Wang Sheng, nor was it deliberately created by him to maintain his authority. There was really great danger in the Thousand Despair. After this incident, the large clans understood that although it was important to learn some survival skills from some experienced hunters, those experiences could only be the most basic survival experience in the outside world. In order to truly enter the grounds of despair, only a grandmaster like Wang Sheng would be able to do so. That's right, in the eyes of the big families, Wang Sheng's current survival skills in the wild were at the grandmaster level. If the profession could also give such a rating, Wang Sheng would definitely be the first to stand at the top of the pyramid. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was a grandmaster. This time, the big families who were full of confidence and enthusiasm were hit in the head. Even the 9 people who were going to enter this time were like facing a formidable enemy. They no longer dared to look down on any of Wang Sheng's words. If it wasn't for Wang Sheng's order not to move, all 9 of them would have probably been killed by those snakes that had woken up. Their lives were hanging by a thread. To be able to cultivate to the 4th stage, which one of them did not improve through battles. But there were only a few times when their lives were hanging by a thread. Everyone was covered in cold sweat. It seemed that it was not suitable for them to enter again today. The leaders of the few families discussed for a while and negotiated with Wang Sheng. They decided to rest for today and continue the next day. In addition, the Chiu family had lost 1 person today. They wanted to see if they could make up for it with someone else. Wang Sheng didn't care about this. Anyway, it was only half a day. This half a day was enough to achieve some of the effects that Wang Sheng wanted. As for adding another person, it didn't matter at all. A sheep was herded, a flock of sheep was also released. It was just changing the person. Whatever. But there was one rule. The 2 rules that Wang Sheng had mentioned earlier must not be challenged. But there were some intelligent people in the crowd. Everyone had heard the conversation between Imperial Treasury's Marquis, LV Wonho's maidservant Ling, and Wang Sheng. Many of them had other thoughts. The second rule that Wang Sheng had mentioned before they set off was not responsible for teaching or explaining anything. But everyone realized that if they could pay a price that could move Wang Sheng's heart, this rule didn't seem to be insurmountable. Ling had paid a pile of medicine and got the answer that she wanted to know. Then could it be the same for the others? So the crux was whether everyone could take out the things that Wang Sheng wanted. From the few times they had worked together, Wang Sheng knew that as long as the price was right, whether it was the secret of how to upgrade one's origin soul or the secret of entering and exiting the lands of thousand despair, it wasn't impossible for them to work together. In the past, everyone's collective heart was covered with lard. No one knew why they thought of capturing and interrogating them. If they couldn't catch them, they would chase them down. The big families were used to being domineering and forgot that things could be solved very easily. When they chased them to the carefree city, they found out that they only needed to pay a few gold coins. It was not known how many of the families in charge at that time were reprimanded. Even the Tang family patriarch himself had to reflect on his mistakes in an internal meeting. As for the first rule, it was nothing more than what Wang Sheng said politely. Don't do things that you don't want to do. But after going through so much, which fool would think that they had to do things that Wang Sheng didn't want to do? In addition, the things that Wang Sheng asked them to do, such as preparing new equipment, preparing to feed them, and so on, which one of them was unreasonable. This time, the families had given strict orders to their juniors. Those who followed Wang Sheng into the thousand despair must obey his orders unconditionally. Otherwise, according to the family rules, they would be punished for disobeying the orders of the patriarch. Chapter 254. Early the next morning, Wang Sheng led the team and set off again. It was still 10 people, but the one from the Chiu family was replaced by another beauty. Perhaps they felt that Wang Sheng was relatively polite when talking to the first 3 beauties. They didn't rule out the possibility that the Chiu family wanted to use a honey trap, because the new beauty was picked according to Wang Sheng's preferences. She had long legs, big breasts, and a very good figure. Even the clothes that were tailored to her figure could highlight her advantages. Her big eyes would also give Wang Sheng a look from time to time, which made the other families exclaim that they had miscalculated. This time, it was still the same adaptive training, but everyone's attitude had changed. They directly treated Wang Sheng as their immediate superior, obeying his orders without any hesitation. No one disobeyed him. The person who disobeyed was already lying there and almost died. Anyone would know what to do. Everyone had to take turns to open the way. They had to be careful of their steps and their surroundings. Their movements couldn't be too big, and they had to be light. They couldn't move a large number of vines and shrubs, etc. Wang Sheng would mention all kinds of precautions during the use of the skills, but only once. It didn't matter if Wang Sheng listened or learned. It didn't matter to Wang Sheng whether they learned it or not. It seemed that everyone was very diligent. Just opening the way alone, the 10 experts had learned almost everything in the morning. They were all experts of the 4th degree realm, so it didn't take long to learn such a simple skill. At the same time, in order to safely step on the footprints of the companions in front, pay attention to both sides carefully, be responsible for watching the back of the companions in front, and so on. In the dense forest, especially in the ground of thousand despair, they couldn't easily speak loudly. So they needed an effective way of communication. Therefore, some simple sign language from Wang Sheng, such as warning, retreat, etc., were taught by Wang Sheng. If they encountered some demonic beasts that weren't that strong, they had to work together to attack. If they couldn't defeat it, they had to retreat in an orderly manner, etc. Eating, drinking, even these simple things outside had to be practiced. Wang Sheng gave a simple evaluation of the food he brought, which was suitable, which was not suitable, and what was lacking. Then, he recommended a few simple combinations that were not easy to spoil and could maintain physical strength. These carefully selected children of the various families were not ordinary people. Only when they completely calmed down and studied did they realize that Wang Sheng was simply a huge treasure trove. They had never seen or heard of the things he was teaching. Not to mention the cultivation of martial arts. Just these things alone, if placed in other places, it would not be impossible for them to bow down and worship. Everyone was like a sponge, thirstily absorbing jungle survival and teamwork skills. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng would only teach them some of the most basic things. He would never easily hand over the things that allowed him to settle down. Wang Sheng understood this, and so did these youngsters. Every night when they returned to Carefree City, they would record their training in detail and send it back to their families. If the higher-ups of their families saw this, they would definitely regret their actions in the past. They had pushed such a huge treasure trove to Carefree City out of nowhere. The upper echelons of the various factions were already regretting their actions so much that their intestines were turning green and purple. Time was too short. No matter how talented a person was, they would not be able to completely learn the essence of teamwork that Wang Sheng had used on Earth. But after a few days, this small team had already begun to take shape. Even though I know it's impossible, I still want to express my expectations. Wang Sheng looked at the members of the team who were now barely qualified to work together. Slowly, he said, "After entering the land of despair, it would be best for you to treat your companions as comrades in arms whom you can entrust your back to. Only by working together will you survive. Scheming against each other will only lead to death. That's all I have to say. Think about it yourselves. That's all for today. Tomorrow, there will be no more training. We will directly enter the grounds of Thousand Despair." After saying this, Wang Sheng returned home. This was the consequence of fighting on your own. 10 youngsters from 10 families would not easily trust someone from another family. So, at most, they would be able to barely maintain a team and would not be able to block a knife for their comrades. At the very most, they were just a temporary team that would fly off on their own in the face of a disaster. If we can let him train our family's disciples, it won't take too long. In just half a year, our family's army will be able to sweep the other 4 families. An elder of the Tang family looked at the records of the descendant that had been sent over by the messenger bird overnight and seriously analyzed the situation. From the Tang family's clan leader to the core elders, they had all pushed aside other matters and stayed in the family's conference hall to wait for the messenger bird to arrive. Once the messenger bird arrived in the middle of the night, they would immediately read through it and analyze it in detail. The elder just now was the first person to speak up. "We don't lack top exponents, but if the top exponents cooperate well, 5 to 6 7-stage realm cultivators will be able to kill an 8-stage realm enemy." The elder who had spoken earlier had a look of admiration on his face. This Wang Sheng only took out the simplest item. If we can really bring out his item, it will only be a matter of time before our Tang family becomes the #1 family. I'm very curious. Tang family's old clan leader didn't rebuke the elder's words, but sighed. What kind of sect could nurture such an evildoer? I'm afraid those few families don't have this ability. Although the clan leader didn't say it clearly, but everyone present knew which few families he was referring to. But other than those few families, no matter how much everyone racked their heads, they couldn't figure out where Wang Sheng came from. They heard that Wang Sheng first appeared in the Song family's forbidden area, and the Song family had been announcing to the public that Wang Sheng was eldest Miss Song's fiancé. It was possible that only the Song family knew about Wang Sheng's background. In future, restrain the family's disciples. Never get into a dispute with Wang Sheng at any place or on any occasion. After everyone discussed for a while, the clan leader finally concluded, Tang Ao and those disciples' families who had entered the grounds of Thousand Despair should be appeased. Don't let them have a chance to meet Wang Sheng. We can't push Wang Sheng against us and make him our enemy. Not only the Tang family, this first batch of 10 people belonged to different families and powerhouses. Every powerhouse was doing the same analysis. No one was an idiot, and the result was more or less the same. Let me reiterate once more. Wang Sheng stood outside Carefree City and said to the 10 people who were eager to give it a try, once you've entered the grounds of Thousand Despair, don't think of returning within a day or two. I can't guarantee any of your safety, so it's not too late to back out now. Those who don't wish to go, just turn around and return to the city. No one turned around as everyone looked at Wang Sheng in anticipation. Let's go. Wang Sheng didn't say anything else as he waved his hand and led the team off. Chapter 255. In a dense forest, a foot stretched out from the bushes and walked forward. However, it did not realize that the bottom of the seemingly sturdy mass of grass under its foot was actually just an illusion. Suddenly, There was nothing to hold on to, and the foot stepped on empty air. Its body involuntarily fell forward. In the nick of time, a person behind suddenly reached out and grabbed the collar of his companion in front of him. He didn't care if this action was elegant or not, and dragged the person back first. Whoosh! A short knife flew out from the bushes and accurately pierced a green ball the size of a fist that flew out from under the mass of grass. Cheat! The green ball was nailed to a nearby tree root. The two people in front of them looked at the fist-sized spider that was still alive even after being pierced by the short knife. Cold sweat flowed down their foreheads as they saw the spider's sharp fangs that were as long as an adult's fingernails. The people behind them also saw this scene. Although they weren't as close to the spider as the two of them were, they were still frightened out of their wits and broke out in a cold sweat. In a land of thousand extremes, every step was filled with danger. A moment of carelessness could lead to death. Take the scene just now, for example. They had only been in the land of thousand extremes for slightly more than a day, but they had already experienced similar situations at least 4 times. At least 4 of them had almost died. The one who had been struck by the short knife was naturally Wang Sheng. He was far more experienced in the forest than anyone else. Coupled with his battle awareness and the warning of the little person, basically, as long as there was a crisis that could threaten his life, it would be discovered by Wang Sheng in advance. Seeing that the fist-sized green spider had gradually stopped struggling, the third person behind them was just about to step forward to collect the spider's corpse when Wang Sheng stretched out his hand to stop him. "Don't go over. Shoot another arrow." At this moment, Wang Sheng's words were the golden rule. The person who was proficient in archery took out a bow and arrow from his storage ring without hesitation, knocked an arrow, and shot at the dead spider. Cheat! The arrow pierced through the green spider's corpse with great momentum, leaving behind a cloud of green liquid as it pierced deeply into the tree root behind it. Strangely, the green spider that everyone thought was dead actually began to move again at this moment. However, because it was pierced by daggers and arrows, it could only move its 8 slender green legs in vain. Everyone could clearly see that because the arrow passed through the spider's head, its 2 sharp teeth actually bit into the arrow shaft. At the same time, its fat belly suddenly sprayed out a ball of white silk, firmly gluing the shrubs below together. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This was just a spider, but it actually knew how to play dead. Did it have to be so exaggerated? Some insects were used to pretending to be dead, but that was when they were frightened, not when their bodies were pierced by an inch-wide knife. This time, Wang Sheng did not stop anyone from collecting the spider's body. The spider was already dead. The person who had his turn carefully put the spider's body into a jade box and stored it in his storage ring. Then, he cleaned Wang Sheng's dagger and handed it to Wang Sheng. This dagger was the reward that Wang Sheng received from the Carefree City's assassin hall after killing Dai Wuji. It was personally given to him by Big Sister Rosa, and its name was very strange, Chi and a half. However, in the ears of many cultivators, this was a famous blade that resounded like thunder. But now, this Chi and a half famous blade was only in the hands of Wang Sheng. The group continued to move forward, and Wang Sheng would always change direction at some very strange time or in a very strange place. There was clearly an open space in front of them, and there was no danger to be seen, but Wang Sheng refused to take such an easy path and insisted on taking a detour through a dense forest. Sometimes, it looked as if he was deliberately leading everyone in a circle. This was very easy to understand, and no one in the group had any objections. If it had been anyone else, they wouldn't have easily told anyone about the secret passageway leading to the grounds of Thousand Despair. They would have set up some traps along the way and would have taken a few detours to confuse everyone. Only then would they have taken the right path. Wang Sheng would not explain anything to them. Before they set off, Wang Sheng had already told them that there would be no explanation. Everyone knew the rules and did not take the initiative to ask. They knew that even if they asked, Wang Sheng would not answer. However, this did not mean that they could not do something. There were a few people who could be considered as conscientious. Along the way, they constantly recorded the route that Wang Sheng took, and from time to time, They would determine the direction according to various conditions and record the mileage that they had to go deeper into the grounds of thousand extremities. In their hearts, it could be said that they had already drawn a path forward. There were all kinds of talents in the various large clans, and this was not rare. Knowing that Wang Sheng leading everyone in and out of the grounds of thousand extremities would definitely expose a rout, it would be strange if the various large clans did not send a few people with the ability to remember the route. This was something that Wang Sheng did not care about. It was up to them to remember or not to remember. In the first place, he did not have much of an objective for this trip. At most, he would follow the records of the Elder Supreme Lord Monastery and walk to the original Scarlet Bear Hall's territory that was closest to the carefree city before returning. Not too many secrets would be exposed. Actually, letting them record was a huge trap that Wang Sheng had dug for the various large clans. If Wang Sheng wanted to explore the grounds of thousand extremities, he would not be able to explore it in his entire lifetime. The various clans had money and manpower, so wasn't it just right for them to be in front of Wang Sheng? There were two people who thought that their methods were brilliant and secretly left behind secret marks when they were in charge of bringing up the rear. However, even though their cultivation levels were high, they were really amateurs when it came to such matters. Wang Sheng could not even be bothered to ridicule their clumsy methods that they were so proud of. What was the point of leaving a secret mark? There were only a few reasons. Either they wanted to secretly record the next time they entered, or they wanted to give directions to the people behind them. Since there were people who could carefully record the route, it was obvious that the person who left the secret mark was not that stupid. If they waited until the next time they entered, it would definitely be left behind for the people behind them. Even Wang Sheng felt that it was funny. Some people always had strange thoughts, as if they felt that they would lose something if they did not send anyone to follow them. Little did they know that the route that Wang Sheng chose was to avoid those ferocious demonic beasts at all times. However, the demonic beasts were alive. They might be here now, but they might not be the next time. It might be safe now, but might not be safe after a period of time. If they did not know the secret behind it, they would not even know how they died. Along the way, after a few daunting encounters, the group finally arrived at a river. Everyone firmly remembered Wang Sheng's words. They must not drink the water of the grounds of thousand extremities, nor jump into the water of the grounds of thousand extremities. They even tried to avoid getting close to the water. However, at this moment, Wang Sheng shouted at the group, "Don't stay on the ground. Quick!" Then, he took the initiative to jump into the seemingly calm river. Chapter 256. Following Wang Sheng into the place of thousand despair was the first ironclad rule that no one was allowed to challenge Wang Sheng, and that was to never do anything that Wang Sheng didn't allow. This rule had saved the lives of several people more than once. Those who didn't listen to it were already lying in bed at home. Although they didn't die, they were just lucky. So when Wang Sheng told them not to stay on the ground, everyone followed Wang Sheng and jumped into the river next to them without hesitation. Learning from Wang Sheng, they dived into the water. Others didn't have the exquisite goggles like Wang Sheng, but they also had substitutes made of high-grade crystals. Even underwater, everyone could see a lot of things with their eyes open. For example, as soon as they jumped into the water, they saw a few leeches twisting their bodies and sticking to their bodies. Perhaps there were other aquatic animals, but at this moment, they couldn't care less. Everyone saw Wang Sheng's sign language. Stay underwater and don't move. For the time being, the leeches could only stick to the outside of the person's clothes. Only then did everyone realize how intricate Wang Sheng's clothes, pants, and boots were. Even his head was protected by special protective gear. The sackcloth bamboo hat that Wang Sheng had originally made himself had been modified by the experts of Baoqing Hall. It was changed into a thin gauze woven from several layers of silk spat out by some kind of demonic beast. It could protect the head, face, and neck, greatly increasing its defensive power. However, it did not affect one's vision and hearing. A professional's move was indeed different. Everyone stayed under the water obediently, no matter how the things in the water drilled around them. No one moved. They just put a small tube in their mouth and looked at the water, because the things in the water were not worth mentioning compared to the things that suddenly appeared on the shore. Less than 2 minutes after they jumped into the water, the waves had just calmed down, and there was no trace of people jumping into the water. Suddenly, there was a burst of demon beast cries coming from the trees. A group of people suddenly rushed out from the direction where Wang Sheng's team had just passed. There were more than a dozen people, each of them fully armed and wearing the same equipment as Wang Sheng's team. Needless to say, this must have been bought from Baoqing Yutang and the Imperial Treasury. But at this moment, they did not look like an expedition team at all. Instead, it was as if there was something chasing them from behind. They ran forward crazily, not caring about where they were going, and just kept running. Then, the people underwater saw over 100 shadows jumping on the treetops in the dense forest, making a series of sounds that sounded very lively, but were enough to make the people below tremble in fear. Grimace Monkey. One of the people in the water saw it clearly and almost screamed. He finally realized that he was underwater and didn't open his mouth to gulp down a mouthful of water. This kind of 5-star demonic beast meant that most of the adult ghost-faced monkeys were in the 5th degree realm. Occasionally, some of the more powerful ones would rush to the 6th stage realm or even the 7th stage realm. Naturally, some of the weaker ones might be slightly lower, but definitely not too low. They lived in groups and were easily angered. Once someone angered them, the entire group would swarm them. That was the current situation. The dozen or so people who were running for their lives didn't even know how they ended up in the midst of the ghost-faced monkeys. They were obviously following Dark Mark. How could this be? But now, there was no one to explain to them. Even if there was an explanation, they couldn't be bothered to listen. One of them ran a little slower and was rushed down from the tree by a strong male monkey. It grabbed his hair and dragged him up the tree, not far above Wang Sheng and the others. They watched as the fellow who had been dragged up the tree was torn into several pieces in just a moment's time. The dozen or so ghost-faced monkeys each grabbed a piece of it. They didn't care how bloody it was and just gnawed on it, eating it with relish. The remaining ghost-faced monkeys were still crazily chasing after the others below. Not only would they rush down from the tree from time to time, they would also throw something down from the tree. Some of them were knocked unconscious by coconut-sized objects and then dismembered by the ghost-faced monkeys. Under such circumstances, the people underwater could only watch helplessly. There were over 100 5th degree realm ghost-faced monkeys. Even if they rushed out, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Moreover, other than one or two of them, the others might not be so kind as to jump out and sacrifice themselves to save others. After the dozen or so ghost-faced monkeys had their fill, they stayed on the spot for a while. This made the people underwater shudder. Once they were discovered by the ghost-faced monkeys, wouldn't they end up like those who were being chased? Luckily, the ghost-faced monkeys didn't stay for long. After seeing that there was no movement, they jumped up the tree and continued to chase after the group. Wang Sheng and the rest didn't jump out immediately. They stayed underwater for another 10 minutes, breathing through the tubes in their mouths. In short, they couldn't let any part of their body come out of the water. Finally, Wang Sheng took the lead and came out of the water. The rest also hurriedly jumped out. There was no other reason. The pressure under the water was too great. With so many leeches constantly drilling around, it was a scary scene. The first thing they did when they got ashore, including Wang Sheng, was to help each other check if there were any leeches on their bodies. They used a flint to burn off the leeches. Wang Sheng even decisively took off his clothes to check if there were any. Although the special military uniform could protect them, who knew if there would be 1 or 2 fish that slipped through the net? Wang Sheng remembered clearly that a 7th degree realm expert who followed him into the grounds of Thousand Despair had died in the mouth of a leech that hid in the water while being chased by the killer bees. He couldn't make that kind of mistake again. The few beauties were a little embarrassed, but they endured the discomfort and hid to one side to take off their clothes to check. Wang Sheng's performance was too cautious. In addition, they had seen those leeches with their own eyes, so they had to be careful. Among the 10 people, one of them didn't look too good. He recognized more than half of those people who had fled for their lives. They were obviously the people from his own sect who had followed him into the lands of thousand despair. However, they had been completely annihilated by a group of ghost-faced monkeys. But he had obviously left a secret mark on the way and hadn't met any ghost-faced monkeys along the way. Why were they suddenly being chased? Everyone knew who those people were. It was just that it didn't involve their own sect, so their mood wasn't as heavy as this person. Although the others didn't feel that bad, they were also afraid. They obviously hadn't met any strong demonic beasts. How did the people following behind meet a large group of ghost-faced monkeys? Could it be that Wang Sheng didn't lead them in circles, but to avoid some fierce demonic beasts? If that was the case, then Wang Sheng was even more terrifying. No one knew where the demonic beasts would appear, but Wang Sheng was able to avoid them in advance. What did this mean? Those people who chased after him didn't die in vain. Fortunately, the higher-ups of their own sect didn't send anyone to follow them. Otherwise, the result would be the same as those fellows. Chapter 257. Amidst the group of people who were deep in thought, another person suddenly thought of something, and his face instantly turned pale. Wang Sheng didn't need to look to know that it was definitely the other one of the two who had left the mark. The group in front had already been dealt with by the grimace monkey, so who knew what would happen to the one behind? The other forces didn't feel the slightest bit of sympathy. What was this? Wang Sheng had already led everyone into the grounds of thousand despair. After successfully entering and exiting the place once, they would have experienced people leading the team. Why did they have to go through the trouble of bringing people to follow them? Although following them at all times would help them discover some of the secrets of the grounds of thousand despair in advance. Wasn't it a little too unsightly? Not only was the entire team annihilated, they would also be secretly isolated by the other forces. The gains didn't make up for the losses. If we pick up any equipment along the way, I want half of it. Wang Sheng didn't care about this. Whether they came or not, they were all cannon fodder for Wang Sheng anyway. No matter how many of them came, it didn't matter to Wang Sheng. As they continued on their way, everyone's mood became heavier and heavier. After walking for less than 10 miles, they had almost gathered the same number of weapons as the pursuers they had just counted underwater. Basically, it could be said that it was a foregone conclusion that they would be completely wiped out, and there would be no chance of them getting lucky. As they continued on their way, Wang Sheng discovered that the second expert who had left the mark only left a mark once and didn't do anything else. He only focused on recording and didn't leave any more marks. Thinking about it, it was obvious that if they let the people behind follow them, they would only be stepping into a trap of death. It was better to let them turn back. After this experience, everyone in the group had many more considerations in their hearts. In any case, they were even more careful as they walked. Speaking of which, it was strange. Along the way, apart from seeing a lot of terrifying insects, they almost didn't encounter any powerful demonic beasts. Now, no one suspected that Wang Sheng was leading them in circles anymore. It was a miracle that they could move around like this in the grounds of thousand despair. If Wang Sheng was willing to take out this secret and exchange it with the other forces, they would probably fight to the death. Unfortunately, everyone knew that Wang Sheng wasn't an idiot. He wouldn't do such a stupid thing. After walking for a few days, they had been traversing through the dense forest. The vegetation here was too dense. After hundreds of years of undisturbed growth, there were all kinds of plants everywhere. Wang Sheng suddenly stopped and pointed at a densely packed area covered in vines. "What do you guys think this looks like?" he asked. This was the first time Wang Sheng had asked him a question in the lands of thousand despair. Everyone stopped and observed him carefully. "Gatehouse." Everyone stared at it for a long time before one of them finally voiced out his guess. With this reminder, it was as if the fog in the minds of the others had been lifted. That place really looks like it. Previously, no one had thought that there would be human buildings in the lands of despair. It was only now that they realized that it might be the case. "Get rid of those vines. Be careful of your feet and behind those vines," Wang Sheng said. Immediately, someone stepped forward and carefully removed the surrounding plants. Although Wang Sheng had said that they could choose not to do what he told them to do, it was clear that no one would mind at this time. After only clearing a corner, everyone was certain that this was a man-made stone gatehouse. It was built very sturdy. Even after hundreds of years of wind and rain, this gatehouse had not collapsed. Due to the materials used, it had not completely eroded away. It was only wrapped in various kinds of moss and vines that caused it to look like this. If it weren't for Wang Sheng, no one would have realized that the tall structure, which they couldn't see clearly from afar, was actually a gatehouse. They would have thought that it was a few large trees, as the upper part of the building was covered by all sorts of dense canopies. Everyone became excited. It went without saying what it meant to find a gatehouse in the lands of Thousand Despair. Perhaps there was an undiscovered treasure waiting for them to explore near this gatehouse. Look at the position of the plaque, Wang Sheng said. Someone immediately moved the top of the gatehouse to the center. Usually, there would be inscriptions or plaques hanging in the middle of the gatehouse. After the experts on the top carefully cleaned it, they discovered that there were still some words left on it. There should have been a few words, but after hundreds of years of wind and rain, some of them had fallen off and could not be identified. Only a relatively simple stroke remained, but that was all that was left behind. A few people took turns to go up and carefully identify it. Everyone came to the conclusion that it should be a Qi character. What was Qi? Among the people present, no one except Wang Sheng knew. Wang Sheng had seen the records of the Laojun Temple, and he had consciously led them in this direction. Therefore, he was sure that this was the territory of the Red Bear Hall. However, the families and sects behind them might not let them see the secret information, so it was normal that they didn't know. Have any of you heard of the legend of the lands of Thousand Despair? Wang Sheng looked at the excited crowd and suddenly asked. Everyone nodded silently. Everyone had heard of the legend, but who knew if it was reliable or not? Since there is a legend, there must be a source. Wang Sheng was not surprised. He slowly organized his words and said, "This is very likely the territory of a sect or a big family in the past." This analysis was not exaggerated. Everyone was thinking about it, but no one stood out to refute it. No matter which legend it is, it involves one or several formations. Wang Sheng also said his own thoughts. Although it has been hundreds of years, and I don't know if the formations still exist, one thing is certain. Everyone looked at Wang Sheng, waiting for him to say something. If we go further in, it will definitely be extremely dangerous. Wang Sheng looked at everyone's excited eyes and asked calmly, "You don't deny this, right? Even if there was no formation, the deeper they went, the more dangerous it would be." This was common sense. Everyone nodded. "Then what do we do now?" Wang Sheng asked. "Do we continue to go deeper, or do we retreat and report?" After saying that, without giving anyone a chance to interrupt, Wang Sheng added, "So far, I still have the confidence to bring everyone back safely. But if we go further in, I'm not so sure. Or we could try to go deeper and retreat after losing 2 or 3 people." To be honest, since they had already come this far, no one would be satisfied if they did not go in and take a look. However, everyone knew that Wang Sheng would not lie. If he said he was not confident, it must be extremely dangerous inside. Although everyone wanted to see the secrets inside, no one wanted to be the one to lose. Everyone began to hesitate. What if I insist on going in? An expert from the Gan family suddenly stood out and asked. "Then you will be in charge of opening the way," Wang Sheng replied without hesitation. Chapter 258. Wang Sheng made it very clear that whoever wanted to go in would be responsible for opening the way in front. If more than one person wanted to go in, then they would take turns. The unknown mysterious area was probably the base of a mysterious sect or a big family hundreds of years ago. No one knew how many treasures it contained. However, there were countless dangers at the same time as there were opportunities. If they wanted to go in, they had to risk their lives. If the one who opened the way in front died, Wang Sheng would definitely turn around and leave without saying anything. Everyone understood this result. Now, it depended on whether they were willing to use their lives to help those who came later find a way. If the people present were all from the same sect or clan, it might have been easier to deal with. However, aside from Wang Sheng, the 10 of them belonged to 10 different powers. Their sacrifice could only be a wedding dress for others. Was such a sacrifice worth it? The answer to this question was very simple. It was a great achievement to lead their own sect or family to explore the way. If they didn't die, they would be a great hero to the family. Even if they died, they would be rewarded generously by the family and the sect. But if they led the people of other forces, they would die. They might not even get the reward for their sacrifice. It was unknown whether the people of their own forces could know what they had paid for with their lives. Under such circumstances, how could anyone choose to go deeper? Even if the 10 people were unwilling, they could only turn around. No one was willing, but they could only do so. Just when everyone turned around resentfully, a very surprising thing happened. A member of a hidden sect, who didn't say which sect he was from, suddenly stood beside Wang Sheng and pointed his sword at Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng, you go and open the way. This guy had always been very cooperative. At the beginning, he didn't have any outstanding performance. Everyone thought he was an honest person. Who knew that he would turn against him at this time? Wang Sheng seemed to have expected this situation. He didn't move at all. He just looked at the guy who hid very well and asked calmly, do you think they will agree? They didn't use their names. Those who knew each other, but they wouldn't say it to others. So everyone called each other one by 1, 2, 3, 4, until 10. This guy was the oldest and was ranked first. Everyone called him Ada, so what if they don't agree? Ada sneered and looked at them disdainfully. If they were to enter now, all the benefits would belong to them. However, if they were to bring their clans and sects in the future, that might not be the case. Ada's idea was actually very simple. He just wanted to seize the initiative. He had already come this far, so wouldn't it be a pity to retreat now? The group of people was stunned. When they saw this scene, they suddenly struggled in their hearts. Whoever opened the path would be taking a risk, and no one was willing to do so. However, it was different for Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng was very familiar with the grounds of Thousand Despair. It would not be a problem for him to enter. The temptation of being able to discover the secrets of a sect that had been annihilated in the lands of Thousand Despair was simply irresistible. What a great benefit! As long as he supported Ada now, it was very likely that he could get it. The question was, were they going to agree with Ada's plan to hold Wang Sheng hostage here? Judging from the ending of those who had chased after Wang Sheng in the lands of Thousand Despair, it did not seem like a good idea. Moreover, their way back would be fraught with danger. They could not leave Wang Sheng. Was it worth it to anger Wang Sheng at this time? Finally, someone made a decision. He took out his weapon and pointed it at Ada. With someone taking the lead, others immediately followed suit. The others also took out their weapons and pointed at Ada without hesitation. A bunch of trash. Ada sneered. He did not care about the 9 weapons pointed at him. He said disdainfully, "Are you scared by a junior's words?" Everyone's expressions changed simultaneously. This fellow really didn't give them any face, did he? Originally, everyone could go out safely and then slowly bring people in. Everyone depended on their own ability. Why did he want to go in first? On what basis did he drag everyone down with him? Do you think that only your sect has smart people and that you're the only one who knows how to hide your cultivation? Wang Sheng said with a sneer as he stood there motionlessly. Ada's expression changed instantly. The reason why he dared to make trouble at this time was that he had concealed his strength of the 5th degree. He had thought that he could completely overshadow these guys of the 4th degree. Now he suddenly realized that he might have really done a stupid thing. Could he turn back? It was impossible. The moment he was tempted, it was already destined that he could not turn back. How could Wang Sheng tolerate a person who pointed a sword at him in the team? Cut the crap. Ada's sword moved forward and almost touched Wang Sheng's body. But it was blocked by Wang Sheng's coat. It seemed that if he exerted a little more force, it would stab into Wang Sheng's body. Ding! A sudden sound rang out. It was Alu who had shot an arrow at Ada's sword. The rebound of the arrow was so strong that it directly knocked Ada's sword away. Only this arrow made Ada realize that Alu's cultivation was not the 4th degree as he said at the beginning, but the 5th degree, which was similar to him. The sword was knocked away. Wang Sheng took 2 steps back lightly and was completely out of Ada's attack range. 1 against 10, No matter how strong Ada was, he knew that he had no chance to win. Alu's bow and arrow alone could make him struggle. If the others attacked him together, he would be very lucky to be alive. He would only die on the spot if he stayed here. Without thinking, Ada turned around and ran away. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng and the others were all heading back in the direction they had come from. If Ada wanted to escape, he could only run deeper into the entrance. Do you have any last words before you die? Looking at Ada's back, Wang Sheng suddenly shouted at Ada. Strangely enough, Ada suddenly shuddered as he lunged forward. Afterwards, he seemed to trip on something and staggered uncontrollably. He fell forward and fell flat on his face. The protective hat on his head was also thrown away, revealing his entire face. Lying on the ground, Ada raised his head and saw a colorful little snake. It was less than a foot away from the tip of his nose. His movements had alarmed the snake. The snake that was less than a foot long shot out and moved as fast as lightning, biting the tip of Ada's nose accurately. Ada grabbed the snake instinctively. Afterwards, he felt pain on his wrist. The snake had bitten his wrist. Its venomous fangs pierced through his glove and into his skin. Everyone was watching Ada's fate. No one noticed that the last two words in Wang Sheng's words were clearly 2 of the 9 syllables. Chapter 259. Lin, Bing, Do, and Zhe all marched forward in formation. Wang Sheng had been pondering the Buddhist incantation of 9 words since he completed the Fuwu transformation. In the beginning, Wang Sheng thought that by using the Buddhist incantation of 9 words to vibrate the body during cultivation, the spiritual qi and the body would be highly integrated, which could improve the efficiency of cultivation. This direction was right. At least it was right to use it in cultivation. But it was a pity that this could only strengthen the body, but it could not be used in attack, which seemed to be a fly in the ointment. It was the shadow eunuch who gave Wang Sheng a great hint. His cultivation was unique. When he spoke, he could even control the direction of the sound wave transmission. Wang Sheng suddenly thought of the old eunuch's unique skill during a simple cultivation. He tried to use it in his Buddhist incantation of 9 words, which could be regarded as laying the foundation for the promotion of the original spirit. The dragon had 9 sons. Shunyo liked music and Pu Lao liked roaring. The Buddhist incantation of 9 words should be more compatible with Pu Lao. However, music and roaring were also of the same origin. Wang Sheng could practice them at the same time, just like Bian and Fuwu. The word Lin contained Wang Sheng's comprehension during this time, especially the comprehension of the old eunuch's method, which added some characteristics of attack. With Wang Sheng's current mastery of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words, he had not reached the point where he could easily hurt people. But it was enough to shock Ada, who was fleeing in panic into a stagnation. It was normal to suddenly lose control of one's body while running and fall flat on one's face. Therefore, the things that happened after them were logical. Unfortunately, there was a poisonous petal snake at the place where Ada fell. It bit him twice, once on his nose and once on his wrist. It was a tragedy. There was snake medicine. Before everyone set off, the Imperial Treasure House had proved that their snake medicine was effective, so everyone had prepared a lot. However, the snakes in the Land of Thousand Despair were different from ordinary snakes. They were highly poisonous, and especially after being attacked, they would quickly paralyze the whole body. If a person had no helper, no matter how great his ability was, he could only wait for death. Would anyone help him at this time? Obviously, the others were not as stupid as Ada. They didn't understand what he was thinking. No matter how anxious he was, he could just go back and bring his men to seize the initiative. Why did he have to threaten Wang Sheng? I want half of his equipment. Wang Sheng told him to wait here, quietly, until Ada died and the petal snake slowly left. Then Wang Sheng went over and dragged Ada back by his leg. They were not from the same faction, and there was no friendship between them. Just now, they had already drawn their swords and were enemies. Who would be polite to an enemy? The equipment on Ada's body was immediately divided up. Wang Sheng was given a storage ring and a few vials of pills that looked a little different. The rest of the items were divided among the people one by one. Even his military uniform and boots were not left behind. They were all stripped off. As for Ada's corpse, it was directly placed by the gate. Anyway, it was impossible for Wang Sheng and the others to bury him here. Who knew what they would dig up in such a dangerous place? Without Ada, the others would not say anything even if they had any evil intentions. They followed Wang Sheng back obediently. On the way back, they all carefully memorized the route they had taken. Wang Sheng did not take them the same route. Since they had memorized the two routes, the location of this place was basically determined. When they returned, they would discuss it with their superiors. It took them half a month to come in, but it only took them 10 days to go back. When they saw the city wall and the huge city gate of worry-free city from afar, everyone except Wang Sheng felt lucky to have survived a disaster. Finally, they came out safely. As for Wang Sheng, he had gone in and out many times, so he didn't feel anything. There were a total of 10 people. 6 of them were injured. Only Wang Sheng and the other 3 were unscathed. The situation should have been better, but 2 days before they were about to come out, the 4 beauties were too embarrassed to go to the toilet, so they hid far away. Thinking that they were about to come out, they relaxed their vigilance and were attacked by a demonic beast. The 4 women were all injured. If it weren't for Wang Sheng and the others who came in time to rescue them, the 4 women might have died on the spot. The number of people who were injured suddenly increased to 6, which made Wang Sheng scold them without giving them any face. On the city wall of worry-free city, there were many people watching every day just to wait for them to come back. Now, they finally saw the figures that had come out. However, while Wang Sheng had returned with his men, no matter how they counted, they were still missing 1 person. You violated the first rule, you died. Wang Sheng didn't have any explanation for this. Facing the fiery eyes of the person who came to receive him, he simply said a sentence as an explanation. The other party dared to be angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. This was the inner city of worry-free city, not a place to fight. He could only suppress his anger and ask the other team members who came out with him what happened. In this regard, the others didn't hide anything and told the situation in detail. Everyone said in unison that they didn't fight each other. The most serious thing was that an arrow knocked away a long sword. That was all. Ada died in the mouth of a snake. This was an indisputable fact. Hearing that the team found a gate tower, and there was a word on the gate tower that hadn't been eroded by the wind, all the parties didn't reveal it in the crowded city gate. They brought the person back and studied it behind closed doors. The sect that Ada belonged to almost scolded Ada in his heart. They had clearly arrived at the destination. All they needed to do was to record the location and bring people back. How could he be so stupid as to threaten Wang Sheng to go in on the spot? Wasn't he blinded by lard? Did he go crazy from wanting to gain merit? Or did he want to eat all the benefits alone? Wang Sheng did not care about the thoughts of all parties and the discord in the dark. At the city gate, he said, "No matter how big the matter is, let me sleep first before we talk about it tomorrow." Then he went back to his home, threw himself on his bed, and slept soundly. Every time they entered the land of thousand despair, even for Wang Sheng, it was an extremely exhausting thing. They had to be vigilant at all times, and they had to deal with all kinds of unexpected situations. It was already quite good that they could bring the remaining 9 people out alive this time. As Wang Sheng said, no matter how important the matter was, wait for him to sleep first. However, even though Wang Sheng had a good sleep, the 9 people who came out with him didn't have a chance to rest at all. They were directly brought to the stronghold of their sects and clans in the worry-free city. After that, they chased away the unimportant people and asked the person in charge of the stronghold to draw out the route they had memorized. Otherwise, if they were to wait for a day or 2 and forget 1 or 2 crucial points, it would not be worth it. Chapter 260. The matter was of great importance, and the leaders of the various clans also knew their priorities. Without asking for more details, they personally lit the lanterns and accompanied their disciples to draw out the route. The messenger birds had already been sent out, and there was a Chi character on the gate of the place they discovered. Presumably, the sects would be able to infer a lot of information from this. From the moment Wang Sheng returned to the evening alone, there were at least 100 messages sent from the various clans today. And the forces of the 9 people who came back alive sent out a second messenger bird message in the evening, which showed the urgency of the news. For the several clans and sects that had participated in the destruction of the Lin family, they could basically judge from the deficit that Wang Sheng and the others had found the encampment of the Red Bear Hall in the past. In fact, the location of the Red Bear Hall in the past was still recorded in the most confidential depository of the clans. Now, after comparing it with the information sent back by the disciples of the clans, they could basically confirm it. In particular, after these disciples drew out the route in and out, throwing away the errors in the drawing and the inaccurate estimation in the process of walking, all parties could already determine that they had indeed reached the outermost mountain gate of the Red Bear Hall. The clans immediately sent detailed questions to the Carefree City. What the clans were most concerned about was whether they had sensed the existence of the formation at the gate of the Red Bear Hall. This time, the 10 people who followed Wang Sheng and were all carefully selected. Not only did they have excellent memory, but they were also well-versed in all aspects, and they also had high attainments in formations. They did not dare to say that they were experts in formations, but they were qualified to sense the existence of formations at close range. By the time Wang Sheng fell asleep from the afternoon of the first day and woke up the next afternoon, the clans had already confirmed that the place they had gone to was the Red Bear Hall, and that there was no formation in that place. At least, even if there was a formation, it had not been activated, and no one could sense it. When the housekeeper received the news and hurried over from the city lord residence to Wang Sheng's place, he saw the shadow old eunuch and Isley chatting and drinking on the side, while Wang Sheng was like a starving ghost who had not eaten for God knows how many years, sweeping away the food on the table like a whirlwind. The 2 maidservants were practically running to serve Wang Sheng the dishes, but they couldn't even keep up with the speed at which Wang Sheng ate. Wang Sheng was indeed famished. In the land of 1,000 despair, Wang Sheng only ate a limited amount of food that he had brought with him every day. The amount of calories in the food was enough for him to consume for a day, but the taste was really mediocre. Moreover, Wang Sheng didn't want the others to completely master the survival techniques in the ground of despair. Therefore, when it came to food and water, he had to bring enough for himself. Thankfully, everyone had a storage ring, so they could bring along enough food and water. However, he had consumed a lot of energy in the land of 1,000 despair. He had slept for an entire day, so it would be strange if he wasn't hungry. Are we still going in? The butler didn't treat himself as an outsider. After bidding farewell to Wang Sheng, he went to drink and chat with Shadow Isley. After Wang Sheng had his fill and the food was taken away, he sat down and asked, "If there's money to be made, let's go." Wang Sheng replied casually, "However, it'll be a month before we go again. We'll need some time to recuperate. Also, if there's anyone who wants to go, let them practice on their own outside the Carefree City. Don't expect me to guide them one by one." The butler was overjoyed when he heard this answer. Without another word, he picked up a large cup and gestured to Wang Sheng before downing it himself. If Wang Sheng wanted to continue going in, it would mean that he would still have to hand it over to the Carefree City. This was a huge source of wealth, and it would definitely make the city lord smile from ear to ear. Moreover, Wang Sheng wanted them to first adapt to the training outside the Carefree City. How would they train? Wouldn't it be the Carefree City that would send people to lead the training? In addition to the expenses of these people in the Carefree City, wouldn't it be another huge sum of money? What do you want next time? As long as you mention it, I'll definitely help you empty those people's pockets. The butler was so excited that he almost patted his chest and guaranteed for Wang Sheng. The old shadow eunuch was not surprised by Wang Sheng's answer. This was because Wang Sheng had reminded him before they set off for the first time. Since Wang Sheng had successfully brought back a group of people, the reason why one person was missing was because the other party had violated the rules. This meant that Wang Sheng did not have the intention to harm everyone. Many things could be carried out smoothly, and the imperial family could slowly participate in it. The land of 1,000 extremities was a big fat piece of meat that everyone coveted. Finally, A small opening was made in the carefree city, and the delicious smell inside was revealed, waiting for the greedy people to take the bait. The news spread on the same day. The news that Wang Sheng would be bringing people into the land of thousand extremities made many forces who did not get to enter the land of thousand extremities the first time very happy. This time, everyone no longer waited and sent people to enter the carefree city. In a short period of time, the population of the carefree city almost doubled. Bao Qing Yutang and the imperial treasury seized this opportunity and made a lot of money this time. Thousands of sets of equipment and supplies were sold, and the storage rings on the market were almost bought out. In the area outside the city gate of the carefree city, there were thousands of people coming and going every day. Every day, there were no less than 100 people injured, either by monster beasts or by carelessness and even by each other. It was not that there were no unlucky people. In the past 10 days, at least 6 people were injured by the poisonous creatures inside and died before they could be treated. Because of this, the Imperial Treasury's set of medicine was stimulated. Coupled with the increase in prices in the carefree city, the Imperial Treasury had spent 8,000 gold coins to buy the eggs of the 1,000 illusion poisonous centipede from Wang Sheng. Plus the investment in the past 2 years of research had made more than 100 times the money in 2 months. On this point, Ling Er, who was next to LV Wenho, was completely convinced. She had a problem with Wang Sheng entirely because Wang Sheng knew something that she did not know. But in terms of making money, she was convinced. In total, Wang Sheng had given a total of 4 ideas to Bao Qing Yutang and the Imperial Treasury. Bao Qing Yutang's frosting and refined salt, the snake venom-related projects of the Imperial Treasury, and chili peppers. The gold coins that Bao Qing Yutang's frosting and refined salt earned in the past 2 years were enough to make any millennium family in the world drool and drown them to death. The noise of the carefree city did not affect Wang Sheng much. Wang Sheng basically stayed in his own house these days, living in seclusion and cultivating every day. Most of the time, people saw Wang Sheng practicing calligraphy, which was very puzzling. No one would casually come to disturb Wang Sheng, let alone kill him. Not to mention the safety of the inner city of the carefree city. Under the orders of the city lord, the surrounding residents did not go out these days to protect Wang Sheng, protecting Wang Sheng's small courtyard like an iron bucket. This was not counting the protection from all sides. At this time, everyone was waiting for Wang Sheng to take everyone in and out of the land of thousand despair. Whoever dared to touch Wang Sheng would simply become the enemy of the whole world. Normally, with such importance attached, ordinary people would not have any crooked ideas. But there were people who wanted to take advantage of the situation. Chapter 261. Because of Wang Sheng, the land of 1,000 extremities, which no one had ever been able to survive, had opened up an opportunity to be developed. The wealth and opportunities contained within the land of 1,000 extremities were something that even the royal family was eager to try, let alone those fellows who were willing to take the risk. Everyone understood that Wang Sheng was the key. If any family could get the full support of Wang Sheng, then that family would be able to seize the initiative in this feast. It was said that the Song family was already preparing to wake up the Song family's eldest miss, who was in seclusion. They planned to let the Song family's eldest miss personally come to the worry-free city and use the beauty trap or past friendship to persuade Wang Sheng to help the Song family. The other families were gnashing their teeth in hatred, but there was nothing they could do about it. No one could change the fact that Wang Sheng came out of the Song family's forbidden area, and it was also a fact that he had a close relationship with the Song family's eldest Mississippi. If they wanted to blame someone, they could only blame the fact that there was no beauty in their family who could have a friendship with Wang Sheng. If Wang Sheng nodded, it was estimated that each family could easily stuff 30 to 50 beauties around Wang Sheng. Unfortunately, from the beginning to the present, only Bao Qing Yutang had sent 2 maidservants, and the Imperial Treasury had sent a chef. People from other forces could not easily get close to Wang Sheng. Fortunately, whether it was Bao Qing Yutang or the Imperial Treasury, they were 2 relatively pure business families. Basically, they were only interested in making money. As for things like fighting for hegemony, they had never been involved. Therefore, although all parties were envious, they were not jealous. After all, they might not be able to get the support of Wang, Sheng, even if they sent people over. Under such circumstances, the people around Wang Sheng's house in the worry-free city were even more careful and kept an eye on them. At this time, not only did they have to guard against assassinations of Wang Sheng, but they also had to guard against some forces coming into contact with Wang Sheng. Now, the forces that could come into contact with Wang Sheng were the Lord of the worry-free city, plus the Imperial Treasury in Baoqing Yutang. Wang Sheng's life was very regular. His daily cultivation had become practicing calligraphy. This confused the housekeeper, the old shadow eunuch, and Isley. The two maidservants and the cook were even more confused. He was clearly an assassin who had killed countless people. How had he suddenly become a cultured person? This was given to me by a senior from the Laojun Temple. Wang Sheng was not afraid of others knowing that he had appeared at the Laojun Taoist Temple. After all, there were so many people at that time. It was impossible to cover it up anyway. He might as well say it himself. I have killed a lot of people. Practicing these words can make me calm down and keep a cool head. All right, when the shadow old eunuch and Isley said to Wang Sheng that he wanted to be calm and not be affected by external evils, they actually didn't think much of it. However, it was good for him to maintain a calm mind. A cool-headed assassin was sometimes far more effective and could live longer than being hot-blooded. In addition to practicing the 100 Yong words at the beginning, Wang Sheng spent the rest of his time writing the 9 words incantation. He wrote the 9 words from beginning to end. He didn't know if Wang Sheng was used to it, but every time he wrote, he would unconsciously read it out. Although his voice wasn't loud, the shadow old eunuch and Isley could hear clearly. Towards Wang Sheng's persistence, the two of them were noncommittal. Everyone had their own path of cultivation. Others wouldn't pay attention to it, especially Wang Sheng, who had an unprecedented sore soul. Even if others wanted to give him pointers, they wouldn't know how to give him pointers. It was better to let Wang Sheng explore it himself. Writing for health seemed to be good. Wang Sheng now said that he needed to cultivate for a month. This kind of cultivation method was just right. No one knew that every time Wang Sheng muttered a word in a low voice, he was undergoing a thorough cultivation session. Wang Sheng knew the 9 words incantation, but he didn't completely understand the power of each word of the 9 words incantation, so he was also exploring it. First of all, he had to work hard on driving his own spiritual qi and body resonance. This couldn't be done without the help of the battle consciousness minion. There was one thing that Wang Sheng didn't realize before. When he practiced writing, he realized that after he experienced the negative Tai transformation, his writing skills had greatly improved. Just like when Wang Sheng underwent the Tao Tai transformation, his taste buds had greatly improved, which led to a qualitative leap in his cooking skills. Now, writing, especially regular script, was absolutely unique in this world, and no one dared to refute it. Unfortunately, the shadow old eunuch and Isley belonged to the kind of people who could only recognize words at most. They couldn't recognize all of them, so they couldn't appreciate Wang Sheng's unique regular script. For half a month, this kind of regular life made Wang Sheng feel comfortable. In this half a month, Wang Sheng had figured out a little of the usage of the 9 words incantation. He didn't dare to say that he could use it to attack others, but when he sat and cultivated, every word really gave him a unique enjoyment. Lin Bingdo, Zhou advanced in formation. Every word had a different pronunciation, and every word had a different resonance. Not to mention anything else, in this half a month, the rotation speed of the yin-yang qi whirlpools in the 16 acupuncture points had increased by almost 1%. This was only half a month. If this continued for a long time, Wang Sheng didn't dare to imagine what effect it would have. The outside of the city was bustling, but the inside was quiet. What was originally a very peaceful life was suddenly disrupted by a sudden incident. Someone tried to kill someone in the inner city of Worry-Free City, but the moment he made his move, he was killed by a group of people around him. It wasn't a big deal at first. It was just a blind guy courting death. But unfortunately, the place where this guy attacked was only a street away from Wang Sheng's courtyard. In a situation where everyone was nervous about Wang Sheng, this was a big deal. The person who attacked was killed in an instant. Then, a group of people investigated the reason and origin of the attack, and whether it was targeted at Wang Sheng. They acted as if they were facing a great enemy. But Wang Sheng himself wasn't disturbed. He had been in his own courtyard, surrounded by many experts. The movement was gone before it reached him. Wang Sheng's routine didn't change at all. It was still a normal night. The chef used all his skills to prepare the meal. The maidservant brought it up. Wang Sheng took a sniff, picked up a chopstick, and ate. Normal actions, normal life. There didn't seem to be any changes. But when Wang Sheng picked up the fifth dish, the spiciest steamed fish head with red peppers, the moment a piece of fish entered his mouth, Wang Sheng put down his chopsticks. He didn't even chew and spat out the fish. Poison. The person who poisoned the fish was very attentive. He deliberately poisoned the dish with the strongest taste. The spiciness would cover up the extremely subtle taste of the poison. If it was someone else, they would probably eat the fish without any precaution. Because the fish was already extremely delicious, the almost non-existent smell did not affect the overall taste. Unfortunately, the person eating the fish was Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng's tongue was strengthened after going through the Tao Tai transformation. Even if there was a slight flaw, he could taste it. It was a good tongue. The person who poisoned the fish obviously didn't realize this. Chapter 262. It was not an exaggeration to say that Wang Sheng could taste the colorless and tasteless water. The natural conditions of different places were different, and the minerals contained in the water were different. Wang Sheng could clearly taste them. It was not that Wang Sheng had eaten poison, so he knew the taste of poison, but Wang Sheng's taste buds were so sensitive that the slight touch of the poison on his taste buds brought a clear numbness to Wang Sheng. It was not the stimulation of normal food or chili. With Wang Sheng's trained vigilance, the first thing he knew was that it was poison. The amount was not large. It may be that they were afraid that Wang Sheng would discover it, so they only slightly poisoned it. But this kind of toxicity could be accumulated. If Wang Sheng did not notice it and ate it for years, he would eventually be poisoned. Moreover, Wang Sheng also discovered that this kind of poison was the kind that would cause extreme pain when accumulated to a certain extent. In order to relieve the pain, he could only ask for an antidote, and it would not suddenly be fatal. In other words, the person who poisoned him did not want to kill him, but wanted to use this poison to control him. As for the current dose, it was not enough to make Wang Sheng do anything. Moreover, Wang Sheng only ate one bite of the fish, which was not enough to poison him. But this had already aroused Wang Sheng's vigilance. Who wanted to deal with him? If it was the most direct poison, Wang Sheng would definitely suspect the chef of the Imperial Treasure House. The second direct suspect was the two little maids of Bao Qing Yutang who served the dishes. However, whether it was the Imperial Treasure House or Bao Qing Yutang, the two masters were more shrewd than ghosts. They were the profiteers among profiteers. With their intelligence, they would not do such a thankless thing. If they wanted something, they could talk to Wang Sheng face to face. They believed that the ideas Wang Sheng had given them had made them earn back 10 times or even 100 times. With this kind of cooperation as a foundation, if he still wanted to foolishly control Wang Sheng, then he would really be hopelessly stupid. If the female owner and LV Wenho were only at this level, then they could directly find a rope to hang themselves. If Bao Qing Yutang and the Imperial Treasury could reach this level, then it would be a big joke. But if it wasn't them, then who could it be? At this moment, Wang Sheng did not beat around the bush. The first person he thought of was Carefree City Lord. To Wang Sheng, the Carefree City was a safe haven. Here, he didn't have to worry about being hunted down. He didn't have to worry about how much his head was worth or how many people coveted it. But now, all the families had given up on hunting down Wang Sheng, and they had even collectively announced that they would let bygones be bygones. At this moment, the worry-free city was no longer a must for Wang Sheng. If he wanted to make Wang Sheng stand on the side of the worry-free city lord for a long time, then he needed some necessary means. For this kind of person who had been in a high position for a long time, there was nothing more reassuring than being able to control Wang Sheng's life and death. Wasn't it like this before? The reason why Wang Sheng stood on Wang Sheng's side was because the worry-free city could decide Wang Sheng's life and death, wasn't it? Only the worry-free city lord could quietly poison the ingredients bought by Wang Sheng's chef. Only he could know what Wang Sheng liked to eat and deliberately chose to poison the dishes that were the most difficult to detect. It wasn't that other families couldn't do it, but in the worry-free city, the most convenient person was the worry-free city lord. These big shots liked to use this kind of method. To put it bluntly, there was no difference between them and the patriarchs of the various families. When the various families knew that Wang Sheng's unrated source spirit could be upgraded, didn't their first reaction was to send people to control him? If they couldn't control him, then they would chase him down? Jackals of the same tribe. This was his guess, but Wang Sheng wasn't sure if it was the worry-free city lord. Just like what Wang Sheng said, to be able to do this in such a short period of time, it was impossible for a small family or power to do this. All the large families were suspicious, but Wang Sheng wasn't anxious. He just needed to wait for them to reveal themselves. What kind of person was Wang Sheng? He was an experienced sniper, someone who wouldn't change his expression even if MT Tai collapsed in front of him. He could stay at the peak of a snowy mountain for 3 days and 3 nights, just waiting for a chance to shoot. He could also hide in a manure pit for a day and a night just to shoot. Even if he found that there was poison, he wouldn't reveal anything. Today's fish, the cooking method, doesn't match the taste. Wang Sheng looked at the little maid, who was puzzled by Wang Sheng spitting out the fish in one mouthful. He smiled and explained to her, then instructed, "Call Old Lu over." Old Lu was the chef. After Wang Sheng called him over, he casually asked him where he bought the fish from and then started to point out the flaws in his cooking method. The cooking method of steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers was learned from Wang Sheng. Moreover, it was the same for all kinds of stir-frying dishes. In terms of culinary skills, Wang Sheng could totally be called Old Lu's master. Did a master need a reason to guide his disciple? After pointing out more than 10 flaws in Old Lu's seasoning method, Wang Sheng even let Old Lu taste a few mouthfuls for him to confirm. Old Lu didn't hesitate at all and went up to eat a few mouthfuls. His comprehension ability was very high, and he immediately understood the problems that Wang Sheng pointed out. Not only was he not depressed because he was taught a lesson by Wang Sheng, but he was also very happy. If the other chefs who walked out from Wang Sheng's place knew about this, they would probably only feel envy and no other emotions. How many opportunities did he have to be personally guided by Wang Sheng? Old Lu managed to catch up and serve him for a few months. Wang Sheng could clearly feel Old Lu's nervousness at the beginning and ecstasy at the end. He didn't feel guilty at all. Wang Sheng nodded and pointed at the fish head. "Go make another one. Actually, it tastes pretty good." No matter how good the taste was, Old Lu had already tasted it. Hence, Old Lu didn't say anything and left with half a plate of fish heads to make another one. Bing! Without anyone to serve him, Wang Sheng recited 2 words from the 9 syllables incantation. In the Buddhist incantation of 9 secret words, Bing represented energy, life force that could prolong one's life and rejuvenate one's youth. The word person means restoration and the power to freely control one's own body and other people's bodies. The resonance of these 2 words might have special effects on healing and detoxification. Previously, Wang Sheng had always felt that his body was becoming stronger, but he didn't have the chance to get injured or detoxify. Now that he had only tasted a mouthful of poison, it was a good opportunity to test it out. As soon as the 2 words came out, Wang Sheng's body surged. In his body, an energy that was of a higher level than spirit energy surged wildly. It had already taken away the almost undetectable numbness on the tip of Wang Sheng's tongue. In Wang Sheng's perception, it was brought to the liver and kidney. After a round, Wang Sheng didn't feel anything strange anymore. Sure enough, after successfully detoxifying the poison, the only thing left was to go to the toilet. Chapter 263. The Nine Secret Words incantation was really amazing. Wang Sheng himself had not fully grasped it yet, but accidentally discovering a little bit of it allowed Wang Sheng to benefit a lot. He was so excited that he almost jumped up. Soldier, swordsman, these two words could have this kind of effect. This was just a small experiment by Wang Sheng. If he could really completely grasp it, then wouldn't it mean that he would no longer need to worry about any small doses of poison? Some small injuries could be recovered in half an hour. For a warrior, this was simply a big surprise. This was only two words if Wang Sheng could completely grasp the Nine Secret Words incantation. Oh, Wang Sheng did not know how to describe his current mood. Perhaps at that time, completing the Pu Lao transformation would be an easy matter. Just as he thought of this, in Wang Sheng's soul space, on the giant monument that supported the sky, the two words soldier, swordsman began to emit a faint glow. Even his soul space began to tremble a little. Wang Sheng instantly felt the change in his soul space. When he saw the two words soldier, Wang Sheng was sure that he had activated the Pu Lao transformation's upgrade condition. But the troublesome thing was this time he needed to completely grasp the 9 words, and the two-word soldier he had only grasped a little bit. He was still far from truly grasping it. If he had known earlier, he would have chosen fewer words. The 9 Secret Words incantation had 9 words. It was too much. The faint glow was obviously not enough to satisfy the Pu Lao transformation. Therefore, Wang Sheng only had one way left to strengthen his cultivation. Pursuing victory was Wang Sheng's creed. It was the same for his cultivation. With great difficulty, he accidentally felt the power of the two words soldier. If he did not take this opportunity to master it, then what else could he do? However, if he had to continuously injure himself to practice the 9 Secret Words incantation, perhaps Wang Sheng would not choose this. Although it seemed that practicing the 9 Secret Words incantation was a good choice, but after the last time he talked to the old eunuch Han Bing Li, he had been looked at with disdain for a long time. So Wang Sheng gave up on this Earth's backward method. This was the soul world, the world of cultivation. If he wanted to practice the ability to resist attacks, there were many corresponding cultivation methods. Why did he have to use this backward method that would be looked down upon? Since he could not casually injure himself, it seemed that it would be difficult for Wang Sheng to practice his recovery power. But coincidentally, wasn't he poisoned by someone? The word soldier could both heal and expel poisons. If he did not use this ready-made training method, when else would he use it? When a freshly made fish head was served, it tasted even better than before. However, Wang Sheng still felt that familiar numbing sensation the moment he took a bite of it. All of the fish had been poisoned. Perhaps the fish itself was poisonous. Wang Sheng did not know. However, that did not stop him from continuing his cultivation while enjoying the delicacy. 9 Secret Words incantation was not to be. But when Sheng Ling Qi, its spiritual qi, Wang Sheng had practiced for a long time, plus the scientific knowledge he had on Earth, it was clear that the resonance was not about the volume of the sound, but about the frequency. So, sometimes it was not necessary to recite the 9 Secret Words cultivation, as long as the sound vibrated and resonated. With every bite, Wang Sheng had to chant the two-word soldier in a very low voice. Then, the poison, which the conspirators in the dark had high hopes for, was quickly brought to the liver and kidneys after every bite of Wang Sheng, and there was no more. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Wang Sheng discovered that because he had to expel the poison with every mouthful, his body's ability to quickly purify itself was stimulated. In the time it took to eat a meal, the two words soldier on the giant monument shone even brighter than before. The light it emitted was also slightly more conspicuous. It was really a good cultivation method. If he had not discovered the poison, Wang Sheng would not have known that this little poison could stimulate the growth of his cultivation. How good would it be if he added a little poison to every meal and every dish? If the conspirator knew that Wang Sheng was sighing with such nonsense, who knew how many liters of blood he would vomit? He had put in so much effort to come up with this extremely secretive plan that was not easily discovered by the people of Carefree City and not easily discovered by Wang Sheng. But in Wang Sheng's eyes, it was just a cultivation method, and he actually thought that it was not enough. Although he was sighing with emotion, Wang Sheng was not the kind of person who would not be satisfied, nor would he treat his life as a joke. This level of poison was just right, and Wang Sheng could remove it in a short period of time. If the dosage was higher, with Wang Sheng's current ability, he might not be able to remove it, and it would be troublesome. Sometimes, the body's ability to resist poison was manifested in one or a few types of antibodies, depending on the poison. But no matter what, Wang Sheng was clear that if he wanted to enhance his ability to resist poison, it was necessary to take or inject low doses or even microdoses for a long period of time. When his resistance was enhanced, he would increase the dosage and not blindly increase the dosage at the beginning. This was poison, not chocolate. The accidental discovery of the crisis actually turned into cultivation, which was something that even Wang Sheng did not expect. Good news. Wang Sheng was very happy, so his face was full of smiles the whole day, so much so that when Isley looked for Wang Sheng for a drink, he could not help but ask. Old Lou's craftsmanship is not bad today, and I am very satisfied with the fish head he made. Is this reason enough? Wang Sheng said this to Isley excitedly. He also had the intention to test if it was the city lord's intention. Han Bingley obviously did not know about the contents of the dish, but he still spread Wang Sheng's words as they chatted. It did not take long for the news that Wang Sheng had instructed Chef Old Lou to make the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers that satisfied him spread throughout the city. Hearing this news, some people were indifferent. It was just a dish. How big of a deal was it? Some people, however, were ecstatic and drank a lot of wine to celebrate. Even if you, Wang Sheng, are as cunning as a ghost, you still have to drink the water that I wash my feet with. Wang Sheng did not care about what happened outside, and only cared about his regular cultivation. These days, he practiced the mantra of 9 words every day. Even if he did not understand a mystery, his body felt stronger day by day. Just the energy that he felt in his body last time, which was more advanced than spiritual energy, had increased a lot. For the time being, Wang Sheng did not know what kind of energy it was, but since it was in his body and it was helping him to expel poison, it was a good energy. The stronger it was, the better. A few days later, the old shadow eunuch that Wang Sheng had waited for a long time finally found Wang Sheng and made his request. The old eunuch faced Wang Sheng and did not evade, directly stating his request. This time, there are 3 people from the royal family that I would like you to bring along. Is that okay? I have no problem. For the time being, as long as the city lord agrees, I will have no problem here. Wang Sheng gave an affirmative answer. You know, I cannot bypass the city lord here. In addition, I reckon that you will not be able to save on the remuneration that should be paid. Chapter 264. Of course, the old eunuch knew that he could not avoid the city lord in the worry-free city. As long as Wang Sheng gave him this reply, he would be able to complete his mission. However, for the sake of insurance, the old eunuch asked with some embarrassment, "Can you take more care of them to ensure their safety? As long as you do not do anything stupid, I can guarantee that." The old eunuch treated Wang Sheng well, and the royal family had no intention of dealing with Wang Sheng at the moment. Hence, Wang Sheng treated the old eunuch very well. However, it would have been better if the old eunuch hadn't mentioned this. The moment he did, Wang Sheng suddenly realized that since the old eunuch was able to do so well under the watchful eyes of the worry-free city lord, he should be able to poison food without anyone noticing as well. Hence, the royal family was added to Wang Sheng's list of suspects. Don't worry, they all know your rules. The old eunuch was satisfied. Wang Sheng did not have any special requests. This was already very clear. They will definitely follow your orders. You can go in and order them around like they are your subordinates. Wang Sheng nodded his head. Since the old eunuch had said this, Wang Sheng understood what he had to do. To be honest, having a few obedient subordinates was a completely different feeling from having a group of unscrupulous fellows. The reason why Wang Sheng felt more tired after coming out of the grounds of Thousand Extremities was because he had used up too much of his energy. What do you want this time? The old eunuch had agreed to it when Wang Sheng did not mention any remuneration. This was the reason why Wang Sheng was happy. This showed that as long as Wang Sheng asked, the royal family would do all they could to satisfy Wang Sheng. I don't know. Wang Sheng replied truthfully. Then he asked the old eunuch, "What do you think I need after cultivating to this level? If you have no other suggestions, I can only ask for the pill of fortune." Such a waste. When the old eunuch heard this, he immediately gave Wang Sheng an evaluation. The good fortune pill can only help you improve your potential and strengthen your foundation. You've already eaten 4 pills, so there's no point in eating anymore. Wang Sheng knew this was the truth, but he really didn't know what he wanted. After thinking for a moment, he asked, "Are there any secret cultivation techniques of the royal family that I can cultivate? Is there anyone who can cultivate to your level?" As he spoke, Wang Sheng's mind was filled with the shadow eunuch's ghostly body movements. If he had such body movements and speed, to put it bluntly, he could go anywhere in the world. Me? Yes. The old eunuch glanced at Wang Sheng and slowly replied, "As long as you are willing to cut it like I did, there are plenty of such techniques. The Sunflower Manual or the Beashiest Swordplay." Wang Sheng was shocked. When he heard that he was going to cut it, he couldn't help but clamp his legs together. Then he called out the names of these 2 terrifying martial arts techniques. That strange body movement technique was really similar. "What is it? I've never heard of it." When the old eunuch heard this strange name, he immediately shook his head like a rattle drum. "Are there any cultivation techniques for the emperor and the princes?" Wang Sheng asked again. Although the royal family wasn't very powerful in this world, even a rotten ship had a few nails. The core members of the royal family wouldn't cultivate bad cultivation techniques, right? The emperor and the princes only cultivate techniques to prolong their lives. The old eunuch laughed. "Are you sure you need it? The royal family has a few secret cultivation techniques for imperial women. If you're interested, I can help you ask around." Hearing this, Wang Sheng knew that he had no chance. The emperor and the princes indeed didn't need to practice powerful cultivation methods like those clan leaders and elders. If they really needed to fight, it would almost be time for the empire to be handed over to others. As for the imperial women cultivation technique, Wang Sheng thought about it and gave up. He didn't need to cultivate this kind of cultivation technique to maintain his dragon spirit and tiger spirit. Moreover, he didn't seem to have a girlfriend yet, so he didn't need one. As for the royal family's core high-level cultivation technique, Wang Sheng definitely didn't need it. Even if he did, the old eunuch would definitely reject it. Unless Wang Sheng joined the royal family, he wouldn't have a chance to learn the cultivation technique of the experts that protected the royal family. Your source spirit is different from the masses. No one knows how to guide you in your cultivation. The old eunuch thought about it and finally thought of something that Wang Sheng might be interested in, but no matter how you cultivate, it's nothing more than fighting and gaining experience. The royal family has a mountain manor that trains guards. There are several old monsters inside with unfathomable cultivation bases. I can promise to send you there to cultivate for a month. Are you interested? Experts? Of course Wang Sheng was interested, but Wang Sheng didn't rashly agree. Rather, he carefully asked, "Old monsters? How are they compared to you?" "Me?" The old eunuch's face turned red as if he was a bit embarrassed to answer this question, but he still said it. "Any one of them wouldn't even need 3 moves to kill me." Wang Sheng was given a huge fright. To kill an old eunuch in less than 3 moves? What kind of terrifying cultivation was this? Wang Sheng thought of the old eunuch's instantaneous movement technique, and his head was covered in cold sweat. If the royal family has this kind of expert, do you still need me to enter the ground of Thousand Despair? Wang Sheng didn't know how to describe his feelings. The royal family was suppressed to the point where they couldn't even leave the capital. Yet they had such a terrifying expert. Then what about the other families that suppressed the royal family to this extent? Thinking of this, Wang Sheng felt his neck go numb, as if he had walked back and forth on the bridge of helplessness. Each power had this kind of terrifying expert, yet they allowed Wang Sheng to play with them. Was this normal? Why? You don't need to doubt it. The old eunuch seemed to want to tell the truth, to Wang Sheng this time. His attitude was very sincere. The ground of thousand despair can only be entered by people in the seventh realm. No matter how high their cultivation base is, they will be suppressed and die even faster. Array? Wang Sheng's fear only lasted for a moment, and he quickly regained his composure. With the old eunuch's words, other than array, Wang Sheng couldn't think of any other possibility. It's not array. The old eunuch shook his head and looked at Wang Sheng. Your cultivation base is still shallow, so you can't feel it. It's a kind of aura, a kind of suppression, much more powerful than array. Aura and suppression? Wang Sheng's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the girl in his dream was still alive? This aura and suppression was released by her? It's a kind of invincible imprint. No one knows what it is. But as long as there's no evil intention, this aura can stimulate cultivation. The old eunuch finally explained to Wang Sheng, why do you think all the families want to enter the ground of thousand despair? Chapter 265. Could it stimulate cultivation? Or stimulate the cultivation of seventh-degree realm experts and above? No wonder all the big families and forces were desperate to enter the ground of despair. If they could really find this so-called imprint, whichever sect or family found it, that power would dominate. It was not difficult to understand why the royal family wanted to participate. But to go to the royal manor to be trained by a few old monsters for a month? Wang Sheng thought about it and shook his head cautiously. What was the difference between this and walking into a trap? As long as they did not want him to come out, he would not even know how he died. Announce the news to the public and rely on external pressure to suppress the royal family? Stop fooling around. 1 month's time. If it was Wang Sheng, he was confident that he could get a confession from anyone. By that time, if he was careless and was taught to death, where would Wang Sheng go to explain? After giving it some thought, Wang Sheng unhurriedly made his request. Prepare a residence for me in Beijing first. I can move there at any time. Sure, what else? It was just a house, the old eunuch nodded. He had already thought it through. Not only would he prepare a luxurious house for Wang Sheng, he would also fill it with his favorite beauties with long legs and big breasts. There was plenty of time to let Wang Sheng degenerate. Young people, as long as it was not cut off, no one would be able to resist the temptation. Wang Sheng was no exception. A type of cultivation method that can only be practiced in the fifth-degree realm. It requires the most acupuncture points. Wang Sheng continued, it is inclined towards strength. With your strength, you still need to practice a strength-based cultivation method? The old eunuch did not agree directly, but asked another question. Others were not clear about Wang Sheng's strength, but he and Isley had seen at the moment Wang Sheng completed the Swanee transformation, so they were very clear about how terrifying it was. It is not for me. Wang Sheng lied without batting an eyelid. It is useless to cultivate if the acupuncture points are not enough. The old eunuch was very clear about the small number of acupuncture points Wang Sheng had, so he did not doubt this point. He wanted to ask who it was for, but in the end, he didn't say anything. After pondering for a while, he nodded and said, it's fine if it's limited to one type. Does the imperial family have any pills that are more powerful than the pill of fortune? Wang Sheng felt that it was about time, but he still asked, if you do, give me one. At most, I'll bring the royal family in alone. Really? When the old eunuch heard Wang Sheng's words, he immediately stood up and asked with a face full of surprise. The old eunuch couldn't help but be tempted to go in with a few people mixed in with the group, and Wang Sheng taking the imperial family's people to go in were two completely different things. Really? Wang Sheng's eyes lit up. He was just asking casually, not expecting a definite answer. But looking at the old eunuch's reaction, it seemed that there really was such a thing. I'll go and ask. The old eunuch did not say another word. He turned around and directly jumped onto the wall and disappeared. He didn't even give Wang Sheng a chance to ask more questions. He's actually an impatient person. Wang Sheng shook his head and didn't say anything more. He minded his own business and started practicing again. It was still practicing calligraphy, practicing the 9 words incantation. But thinking that there were so many powerful old monsters in each faction, after practicing for a while, Wang Sheng suddenly felt that he was still somewhat alone. He stopped practicing and started to ponder on his own. Where was his advantage? Other than the various scientific knowledge and professional skills he brought from Earth, he also had the equipment he brought with him. But now that he had used up all the bullets in the Glock 17, it was useless. Although the M200 still had more than 10 bullets, Wang Sheng understood that it could only deal with some ordinary people. It was of no use to the experts. The sniper rifle could at most deal with the peak of the 4th realm, which was the level of experts like 4th Master Dai. Even if the 5th realm expert was on guard, Wang Sheng might not be able to hit him in one shot. However, with Wang Sheng's current strength, if he were to deal with 4th Master Dai, why would he need to use the sniper rifle? After all, Wang Sheng was an expert who had completed the Dragon Kiss transformation, Tao Tai transformation, Tao Wu transformation, and negative Tao Wu transformation. He was also an expert in the 4th realm. But Wang Sheng's 4th realm was the Dragon Sun transformation. No matter how powerful 4th Master Dai was, could he be as powerful as these transformations? He recalled a rumor that when 4th Master Dai heard Dai Huan's 4th training, he used one finger to shoot Wang Sheng to death. Dai Huan's bullet had the same effect as a bullet. Wang Sheng was inspired. His current strength was much greater than 4th Master Dai. If 4th Master Dai could do it, wouldn't Wang Sheng be able to do it too? Randomly finding a stone, Wang Sheng held it in his hand like how he played with a glass ball when he was young. He aimed it at the stone wall in the courtyard not far away and flicked it out with force. Shio! The stone gave off a teeth-numbing screech. Pong! It hit the stone wall heavily. Under Wang Sheng's gaze, it drilled into the stone wall with a movement that was even more powerful than a pistol shot. The stone wall was hit by a fist-sized hole. Wang Sheng walked over and observed it carefully. Just now, Wang Sheng was just testing it out casually. He didn't expect it to have such power. The stone wall was made of sturdy stones. It was built with the same kind of stones as the city walls. There was no doubt about its hardness. But a stone that Wang Sheng randomly picked up in the courtyard had actually made a fist-sized hole in it. This power was comparable to some rifles. He stretched out his hand to touch the stone that was embedded in the stone wall. He didn't use much strength, and the stone turned into powder. It was the result of carrying Wang Sheng's strength and the spiritual qi on it. After such a powerful attack, the stone itself was smashed into pieces. If this was the result of a casual flick, what was Wang Sheng waiting for? Without saying anything, he immediately went out and went straight to Daju's blacksmith shop. He asked Daju to help him make a batch of iron beads that weighed about 10 grams. He didn't need them to be round and delicate, as long as they were polished and smooth. The bullet of an ordinary rifle was about 7 grams. The iron beads that Wang Sheng customized weighed 10 grams. With Wang Sheng's strength and Wang Sheng's additional spiritual qi, the power of the beads definitely surpassed any of the assault rifles that Wang Sheng had used before. Although the accuracy was definitely not as good as that of a gun after 50 meters, within 50 meters, Wang Sheng's iron beads were definitely fatal bullets for low-level cultivators. Even if he encountered some high-level demon beasts, he could resist them for a while. It was definitely a long-range attack weapon suitable for Wang Sheng. Among Wang Sheng's 3 storage rings, the largest one contained a sniper rifle and other equipment that he had brought from Earth. The remaining space contained his protective military uniform and some necessary supplies for survival. At the same time, there were also the tools that old Taoist Ling Su had made for him. This storage ring was hung on Wang Sheng's military necklace along with his military badge and the mask pendant. The other 2 storage rings were relatively small. They were obtained in the land of Thousand Despair and were worn on each of his hands. Chapter 266. Of the 2 storage rings, one was obtained by Wang Sheng when he was being chased, and the other was obtained from Ada. Both storage rings were about the same size, 2 feet in length, width, and height, much smaller than Wang Sheng's 6 feet long storage ring. However, this size was already considered top grade among the storage rings. Now, Wang Xing no longer needed to be secretive and afraid of others knowing that he had a storage ring on him. He wore the 2 storage rings on his ring, and in each ring there were 200 iron beads, convenient for Wang Sheng to launch long-range attacks at any time. If the long-legged Aki tried to assassinate Wang Sheng again, Wang Sheng could use the iron beads as bullets at any time. In the past, he was used to using firearms, but now he remembered that his physical strength was already stronger than a firearm. After learning the functions of the 9 syllables incantation, thinking of long-range attacks, and reaching an agreement with the old eunuch, everything seemed to be going smoothly. However, Wang Sheng clearly underestimated his current popularity. He didn't stay at home for long before Big Sister Rosa came knocking on his door. Big Sister Rosa's current identity in Carefree City was the service staff of the Hall of Assassins. She was a specialist who served Wang Sheng alone. However, she also had a secret identity, a disciple of a certain secluded sect. I've removed the original bounty for the nature pill and changed it to a higher-grade heaven reversal powder. Big Sister Rosa first reported the changes in the Hall of Assassins to Wang Sheng. Looking at Wang Sheng's puzzled expression, she knew that he didn't understand what heaven reversal powder was. So she explained with a smile, "Heaven reversal powder is a life-saving pill. As long as you still have a breath left, you can escape from death by taking it." Sure, Wang Xing never felt that it would be a waste for something that could save his life. Moreover, the mission hanging in the Hall of Assassins was just a bargaining chip to increase his chances of survival in Carefree City. He never thought that he could really buy such a heaven-defying item with gold coins. He couldn't even buy the nature pill, let alone heaven reversal powder. "Wang Sheng, our victorious return palace would like to cooperate with you. Is that possible?" After talking about the Hall of Assassins, Elder Sister Rosa began to talk about the arrangements of her sect. This was also the first time she revealed the name of her sect in front of Wang Sheng. "Next time, how about you bring a few of our victorious palace's disciples into the lands of Thousand Despair? What I lack now is a way to quickly raise my cultivation and protect myself." Wang Sheng wasn't afraid to tell Elder Sister Rosa about this, whether it's medicinal pills, cultivation techniques, or anything else. "If Victorious Return Palace can help me obtain these things, allowing me to improve my cultivation, then it wouldn't be a big deal for me to bring along your Victorious Return Palace disciples for once." Anyway, he had already told the old eunuch. It didn't matter if he told Sister Rosa again. In short, Wang Sheng's cultivation base must be strong enough to protect himself while the other parties work together to uncover the secrets of the grounds of Thousand Despair. Now that he was in the 4th degree realm, his cultivation was still too low and it was not safe enough. Really, Sister Rosa couldn't believe her ears and confirmed it again. "Of course." Wang Sheng nodded his head and replied with certainty. "However, when we enter the grounds of Thousand Despair, your people must be obedient, otherwise I'll report back to Palace Lord." Sister Rosa was overjoyed. She stood up and was about to leave when she suddenly thought of something. She turned around and rushed in front of Wang Sheng. Without waiting for Wang Sheng to react, she had already planted a light kiss on Wang Sheng's face. "Thank you." After Sister Rosa kissed him, her face also turned red. Lowering her head, she whispered to Wang Sheng, "As long as you don't despise Elder Sister can come and serve you anytime." After saying that, she didn't dare to look at Wang Sheng again. Like a rabbit that had been shot by an arrow, she quickly left Wang Sheng's courtyard, as if there was some kind of ancient beast hidden here. Wang Sheng stretched out his hand and touched the place where Sister Rosa had kissed, a bitter smile on his face. He didn't have any feelings for Sister Rosa, and this kind of exchange of benefits was actually what Wang Sheng didn't want. However, one couldn't look at things on the surface. At least Wang Sheng now had a deeper understanding of Sister Rosa's strength. Previously, Wang Sheng only thought that Sister Rosa's strength was in the 3rd degree realm. But looking at her figure, she was much slower than the old eunuch, but her speed was much faster than Wang Sheng's. This realm was at least in the 4th degree realm, or even the 5th degree realm. There was no simple person in Worry-Free City. From the old eunuch, Wang Sheng found out that there were super experts everywhere. After seeing Sister Rosa's wrong judgment a few times, he became more and more certain of this fact. When it was almost a month, the housekeeper once again sent over 2 nature pills. This was the promised reward, but Wang Sheng didn't mention it to the housekeeper, so he still sent over 2 nature pills. Wang Sheng didn't mind. Although there were so many nature creation pills, they were still good stuff that couldn't be bought even with money. Even if Wang Sheng didn't need it now, he could still exchange it for something valuable in the future. The various powers had already sent people to the outskirts of the grounds of Thousand Extremities to adapt to the new environment. There was no need for Wang Sheng to teach them anything. Many of the old hunters had their income skyrocketing during this period of time, and they were teaching these people how to survive. At the beginning of the month, Wang Sheng once again came to the Castellan's mansion and met the 10 people who were going to enter the grounds of Thousand Extremities. This time, the 10 people belonged to different powers. But Wang Sheng understood that the royal family in Triumph Palace definitely didn't send anyone inside. Do you know the rules? Wang Sheng stood in front of the 10 people who were ready to go and asked. Understood. The 10 of them answered in unison. Wang Sheng nodded, and just as he was about to wave his hand, a voice suddenly asked, Lone Wolf, if we are willing to pay extra, can you explain to us at the right time? The voice wasn't from any one of the 10 people, but from the person who was sending them off. It was an old man, and although he couldn't see through his cultivation, he was definitely an expert, but he didn't know which family he belonged to. What are you willing to pay? Wang Sheng didn't refuse, but instead asked a question. This rhetorical question made everyone who heard it pleasantly surprised. It seemed that everyone had guessed correctly. Ever since the last time Ling from the Imperial Treasury gave Wang Sheng a reward and asked him 2 questions, they had been wondering if Wang Sheng could communicate with them. Now, they finally got a positive answer. It was nothing more than a matter of reward. This was too simple. A cleansing heart pill is 100 times better than an ordinary poison dispelling pill. The old man who spoke quickly said, If you encounter the situation where you were poisoned by the miasma forest last time, it won't be a problem even if the poison is more powerful than that. 1 heart cleansing pill is enough to clear all the poison in your body. 10 questions. Wang Sheng crossed his fingers. When you come back, bring the pill to my house and ask. I will tell you the answer. Similar pills are fine, but wait until I come back. Chapter 267. This time, no one could remain calm. They could ask questions and get an explanation. This made everyone overjoyed. This meant that there was only one of Wang Sheng's 2 rules that they had to follow. No wonder Wang Sheng kept emphasizing that the first rule was the iron rule, but never mentioned the second. It turned out that they could really talk about it. As for whether or not to break the first rule, no one was a fool. The first rule was to save their lives. Break it? Did they not want their lives anymore? The 10 people in the team received the signals from their respective factions, and they all nodded in agreement. They had to think through the 10 questions along the way and decide which to ask and which not to ask. Of course, they could ask more questions if they had the conditions. Wang Sheng seemed to have hinted that he would ask 10 questions for the heart-cleansing pill that he was satisfied with, or any other pill of the same level. After the first experience, all the families ordered their disciples not to offend Wang Sheng in the land of Thousand Despair, and not to go against him. Otherwise, it would be a small matter if they died, and it would be a big matter if they did not complete the mission given by the family or sect. Therefore, Wang Sheng was the one giving orders along the way. No one disobeyed, and no one objected. The journey was very smooth. These people had already gone through 2 months of training, and they were not completely clueless in the forest. As long as Wang Sheng gave them the right suggestions and directions, they could basically carry them out well. The route this time was different from the previous time, and the direction was also different. Wang Sheng could not possibly bring people to the same place. That would be too unrealistic. This time, they changed their direction and headed straight for the center. This direction was not towards the Red Bear clan, the Divine Eagle prison, or the Lin clan. It was only towards the depths of the forest and the mountains, to broaden their horizons. No one knew what they would encounter, and no one knew what special situations they would encounter. For example, right now, everyone was leaning against a big tree that would take 3 to 4 people to wrap their arms around it. They stood there quietly, and no one moved, waiting for the unexpected situation to disappear. Everything happened very suddenly. Wang Sheng was leading everyone forward, and he suddenly gestured for everyone to be quiet. Everyone stopped and looked at Wang Sheng in bewilderment. However, no one questioned him. Wang Sheng's intuition had been proven to be correct many times before. Now, everyone knew that Wang Sheng's intuition was very powerful, because there was no way to explain how he was able to discover the danger earlier than the surrounding experts with higher cultivation and a longer detection range. They could only attribute it to intuition. Then, Wang Sheng's actions were incomprehensible to everyone. He asked everyone to be careful and hide behind a big tree with their backs facing a certain direction. They tried to be as careful as possible not to make a sound or even breathe loudly. No one knew what kind of enemy they would encounter, so everyone carefully followed Wang Sheng's instructions. In any case, he just had to be quiet for a while and not move. Even if Wang Sheng was deliberately mystifying things, it would only take a few minutes. It didn't matter. Just as everyone was quietly waiting for the unknown danger to pass, one of the experts didn't move his body, but his eyes were looking around. From left to right, he had to remember something. Then his eyes stopped at a certain place. Slightly taller than his head and less than an arm's length away, there was something wrapped in all kinds of tiny vines. Those vines hung down from above, and if one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to see that there was something under the vines. Coincidentally, the expert who was standing there saw this, and his eyes suddenly lit up. The protrusion of the vines was obviously a knife that was slashed diagonally into the opposite big tree. It was unknown how long it had been slashed into the tree, but even the blade had grown into the bark. What was left on the outside was a small piece of the rusty tip of the knife and a handle that looked pretty good. It wasn't strange for there to be people in the lands of despair. It wasn't strange for someone to die here and leave behind a weapon. But why did this handle look so familiar? The expert was from the Feng family. The reason why this handle looked familiar was because it was clearly the style of the knife unique to the Feng family. If those vines were cleared away, the word Feng would be revealed on them. This knife had been left behind by an ancestor of the Feng family who had entered the lands of despair. Everyone had been standing there for almost a quarter of an hour, but almost nothing had happened. Although none of them said anything, some of them were already cursing Wang Sheng inwardly. He must be toying with them. Under such circumstances, how would the Feng family react when they saw a knife used by their ancestor on the trunk of the tree in front of them? The Feng family was actually quite patient. At least, the Feng family disciple was quite patient. When he realized that there might be danger around him, he definitely wouldn't move. Even if he was being played by Wang Sheng, he wouldn't care. As long as he passed this point, he would be able to grab the handle of the knife at any time. However, just when the expert from the Feng family felt that there was no problem, his two companions seemed to be looking around as well, and their gazes also turned towards him. Both of their gazes seemed to be on the handle of the knife that was completely covered by the vines. The expert from the Feng family immediately became nervous. If it was discovered by others, it wouldn't be their exclusive discovery anymore. They might even have to fight for it. At this time, he couldn't care too much. He had to make the first move to gain the upper hand. Under the astonished gazes of the surrounding people, the expert from the Feng family slowly reached out his hand and slowly untied the vines that were wrapped around the handle of the knife, causing a series of rustling sounds. Everyone's gazes were attracted by the sound. Everyone saw that after the expert from the Feng family untied the vines, the handle of the knife was revealed. Then, the expert from the Feng family firmly grasped the handle of the knife and began to exert force. Naturally, Wang Sheng also saw this scene. However, his reaction was completely different from the greedy looks in the eyes of the other experts. Instead, he suddenly had a pained expression on his face, as though he was convinced by Wang Sheng. Hoo-hoo, Just as the expert from the Feng family exerted force and shook the knife a little, suddenly, two heavy breathing sounds came from behind. Hearing these breathing sounds, the heart of the expert from the Feng family turned cold. Not good. I don't know what kind of demon beast has been alarmed. However, at this time, it was too late to say anything. In for a penny, in for a pound. He exerted force and pulled the entire knife out of the tree trunk. Not bad. Who knew how long this knife had been around for? But it didn't break or crack. It could even be pulled out. It had to be said that the quality of the knife was not bad. However, everyone could no longer focus on the knife. Everyone's gazes were attracted by the two heavy, breathing sounds. The expert from the Feng family slowly poked his head out from the tree trunk and saw the face of a cute little monkey. Chapter 268. The little monkey squeaked when it saw him. The expert from the Feng family heaved a sigh of relief. It was just a little monkey. Startled, he retracted his head behind the tree. Just as he was about to take a closer look at the knife, he suddenly realized something was wrong. He looked back and saw a huge face as tall as a man behind the little monkey. It was also a monkey, but it looked so ferocious. Just the face alone was as tall as a man. Including the forehead, it was almost twice the height of a man. With such a huge size, there was only one possibility in the ground of despair. Giant forest ape, a 7-star demonic beast. 7-star meant that a normal adult giant forest ape had the strength of a 7th degree realm expert. Some of the more outstanding ones could even reach the 8th degree realm. It was obvious that this giant forest ape was an adult. This also meant that it was at least in the 7th degree realm. The expert of the Feng clan and the giant ape, whose body couldn't be seen, looked at each other in dismay, including Wang Sheng. The other team members looked at the expert from the Feng family with a shocked expression. Everyone silently swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This was going to be a big problem. Wang Sheng had already used his incomparably sharp intuition to give them many close brushes with danger. Why didn't anyone believe him this time? The expert from the Feng family was ranked second. Everyone called him Air. At this moment, he was facing a giant forest ape. They were only separated by a single tree trunk. Air's face was already covered in sweat, even without the giant forest ape doing anything. Did he have nothing better to do than to challenge Wang Sheng's rules? No, it wasn't like that. He had never thought of challenging his rules. He had already thought of cooperating to the end. Didn't he suddenly see the knife used by his ancestor? This thought turned around in his mind, and Air decisively found a reason for himself. But no matter how calm he was, he had to face this terrifying giant forest ape. No, that wasn't right. Not one, but two. The little monkey that he had just seen was clearly a giant jungle ape that had just been born not long ago. In that case, this huge ape was actually a female ape that had just given birth and was extremely protective of her young. The maternal instinct of living creatures allowed them to display strength that far exceeded their own strength when protecting their young. In other words, this gigantic female ape could possibly explode with the power of an 8-stage realm cultivator. What was worse was that the giant forest ape had discovered her, and it was when she was taking care of the child. Run? Competing in speed with a giant jungle ape in the forest? This idea was not funny at all. It was absolutely not funny. The reason why the giant jungle ape used the word jungle as a prefix was because it had lived in the jungle since it was young until it died. Not to mention its habits, just based on its size alone, a single step it took was equivalent to 10 steps an ordinary person could take. Why don't we compete in strength with the giant forest apes? As soon as he thought about it, he would be beaten up so badly that even his mother wouldn't be able to recognize him. A giant ape had casually uprooted the tree he was hiding in and swung it like a small stick. Even 10 Airs combined couldn't compare to the strength of a single giant forest ape. Let's fight. This voice was ringing wildly in Air's mind. His fighting spirit was also rising, but he didn't know why, but his legs kept trembling. An 8-stage realm giant forest ape. Even if he had concealed his cultivation, he was only in the 5th stage realm. At most, he would be at the peak of the 5th stage realm. To fight with an 8th-stage realm giant forest ape who was protective of its young? His companion's expression of F***CK dog was really right. If it was someone else who had alarmed this giant forest ape, Aer would definitely give him a F***CK dog expression. In a split second, Aer's mind flashed past a lot of content, but his body remained rooted to the ground, sweating profusely, not daring to move at all. The giant forest ape didn't seem to be angry, only huffing and puffing to express its attitude of protecting its young. Seeing that the giant ape's huge eyes no longer had any enmity and was about to leave, Aer's heart started to heave a sigh of relief. But at this moment, that adorable little monkey who had just been born a few days ago and was still curious about this world stretched out its hand to grab the knife in Aer's hand. The little monkey was only half the size of a normal person. Compared to the size of the giant ape, it was really very small. It was small in size and had not been born for long. Its skin was also tender, and it didn't have the awe-inspiring aura of its parents. Its curiosity was heavy, and it wanted to touch and have a taste of everything. This time, it had its eyes on the knife in Aer's hand. The seniors of the Foam family who were qualified to enter the grounds of Thousand Despair were all experts. Naturally, the weapons they carried with them were excellent. It had been stuck on a tree for many years, but the blade was still sharp enough. When that adorable little giant forest ape's tender little claws grabbed the sharp blade, it inevitably drew blood. At this moment, Aer wished that he had never seen this knife. He had never hated those grandmasters who forged weapons in his family. Why do they have to make such good weapons? The smell of blood and the frighteningly adorable little monkey's scream were received by the female monkey at the same time. The pair of eyes which had originally ignored the few little bugs were instantly stained with a layer of blood. Roar! The deafening roar was accompanied by the rumbling of the angry beating of the chest. When it reached the team, Wang Sheng knew that he had miscalculated. This time, they had gotten into big trouble. Luckily, when the giant forest ape gave birth, it would leave the team alone for a few days. Only when the little monkey was born would it bring the child back to the group. In other words, what they had to face now was actually a giant forest ape and that little monkey. 11 against 2, or even 10 against 1. If they were willing to go all out and cooperate well, there was a high chance of survival. Escaping was definitely not an option. Now, they could only see if everyone was united against a common enemy. They hoped that among those fellows who were hiding their cultivation, there would be 1 or 2 7th-degree realm cultivators. That would be a big win. Fight! At this moment, Wang Xing couldn't care less about the warnings of not alarming the demonic beasts. He directly shouted at the group, "It's only one now. If we wait for its roar to call a group over, we will have no chance at all." As he said that, Wang Sheng had already started to attack the female ape. The method of attack was the steel balls that he had made not long ago. With a thought, 2 steel balls appeared in Wang Sheng's hands. With a flick of his thumbs, the 2 steel balls whistled through the air as they shot toward the giant jungle ape's eyes. Its speed was even faster than a bullet that had been fired. Chapter 269. No one was an idiot, and no one who could cultivate to this level would still be slow-witted. The situation in front of them was just as Wang Sheng had said. If everyone worked together, they might have a chance of survival. If they tried to escape or hide, they might really die a horrible death. Especially when Wang Sheng had initiated the attack on the female ape. Among so many people, only Wang Sheng had the highest chance of survival if he ran away. Since even he was like that, the others didn't need to say anything else. They immediately took out their weapons and launched their attacks. Whoosh whoosh. Wang Sheng shot out 2 steel balls. One accurately hit the eye of the giant forest ape, and the other hit the eyelid when it blinked in time. It must be said that the giant forest ape at this level was really terrifying. The steel balls, which were more powerful than assault rifle bullets, actually failed to break the fragile eyeball of the giant forest ape. Instead, they were embedded in it, and probably didn't even penetrate the cornea. As for the one that hit the eyelid, It didn't even penetrate the skin before falling off. But the moment it was embedded in the cornea, it brought a wave of extreme pain to the female ape. She was already enraged that her child had been hurt, and now it turned into madness. Before the knife in Aer's hand could stab the female ape, he was smashed into the ground by a punch from above. It was as easy as wedging a nail. Poof! A long sword with extraordinary strength directly pierced into the fur of the giant forest ape. With a ding, it was blocked by the skin of the giant forest ape, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. A fifth-degree realm expert had used all their spiritual energy to attack with a long sword, but they couldn't even penetrate the skin of the giant forest ape. The expert holding the long sword was even pushed back a few steps by the rebounding force of the giant forest ape's skin, and his right hand that was holding the weapon felt numb. Was this the terrifying power of the giant forest ape? Everyone who saw this scene was aghast. But even though they were shocked, they still had to attack. The group of people's attacks landed on the giant forest ape's body in unison. The giant forest ape's body was too big. When it stood up, it was about 6 to 7 feet tall. With such a huge body, it was difficult for their attacks to miss. However, it was a pity that only 2 of the 8 people's attacks were effective. One of the weapons pierced half a foot deep into the ape's abdomen, while the other chopped at the ape's leg, leaving a foot-long wound with blood gushing out. Just from this round of attacks, Wang Sheng could tell that these 2 attacks were effective. One Asi and the other Aki were probably in the 6th stage realm, while the rest were not in the so-called 4th stage realm. They were all in the 5th stage realm. Wang Sheng did not remain idle either. Steel balls kept appearing in his hands before shooting them out. All of them were aimed at the great jungle ape's eyes. It was as though 2 assault rifles were firing at the great jungle ape. Puff, puff, puff. The steel balls hit the eyes of the giant ape several times. Unfortunately, they were all embedded in the cornea and could not be penetrated at all. However, this was not without effect, because everyone could see that the giant ape had begun to blink frequently. Seeing this situation, everyone's hearts were filled with encouragement. The giant jungle ape's sense of smell was not very sensitive. It was about the same as humans, maybe a little better than humans. So as long as Wang Sheng and the rest hid behind the tree and were not seen, they would not attract the giant jungle ape's attention. If Wang Sheng could successfully cripple the giant jungle ape's eyes, then the threat of the invisible giant jungle ape would be greatly reduced. But the giant jungle ape was really not that easy to deal with. In just a short while, the giant jungle ape's fist had already smashed down once again. Even though everyone had a big tree beside them as cover, this fist still shook the thick tree trunk. At the same time, the force was transmitted to Gio, who was hiding behind the tree trunk. So, Gio's entire body flew into the air, and with a bang, he crashed into a similarly thick tree trunk not far away. He fell heavily to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Don't stop. Continue attacking. Its berserk state can't last for long. Wang Sheng saw that everyone's attacks had slowed down and hurriedly reminded them loudly. The young cub's rage from being hurt, plus the pain from being hurt itself, was the source of the terrifying power of the giant jungle ape. Wang Sheng acutely saw this point. 7th-stage realm cultivation was not enough to make a 5th-stage realm top exponent retreat after a full-force strike. So it could only be explained as berserk. They all had plenty of combat experience. Wang Sheng was not the only one who noticed this. Everyone went around the big tree that they were hiding behind, and not like Gio, who stuck close to it. In this way, the giant jungle ape would not be able to attack them in a short period of time. In this way, the situation became much better. Although they were still facing a berserk giant jungle ape, but the giant jungle ape's size was too big, and it was not as agile as the others. As long as they hid in time, and hid intelligently, and their companions could attack in time to attract the giant jungle ape's attention, relying on this terrain to hang on until the giant jungle ape's berserk state subsided was totally not a problem. As long as the giant jungle ape stopped its berserk state, then everyone would be able to hurt it. By then, just by bleeding, they would be able to weaken the giant jungle ape, and it would be at the mercy of others. They were all intelligent people, and adding on to the fact that they had been interacting with each other for this period of time, they had a little bit of tacit understanding. With those two six-stage realm-top exponents as the leaders, the crowd started to surround the giant jungle ape and attack it from all directions. The giant jungle ape's angry roar was earth-shattering, but these mortal ants just had to hide behind the big tree, making it unable to move its hands and feet freely. It had finally managed to grab a chance to attack one, but the back suddenly gave itself a vicious blow, so painful that it had no choice but to give up on the target in front of it and turn to attack that worm behind it. But these fellows' coordination was too tacit, so much so that the giant jungle ape was unable to concentrate on one target. The most annoying thing was following the giant jungle ape's huge movements. All the small-sized predators in the forest, whether they were poisonous or not, those who were fast in concealment, those who could fly or drill, were all alarmed by the giant jungle ape's movements and swarmed towards the giant jungle ape's wounds. Wang Sheng and the rest felt their hair stand on end as they watched the snakes, insects, rats, and ants being alarmed by the giant jungle ape and attracted by the giant jungle ape's fresh blood as they swarmed towards the giant jungle ape's wounds. The fresh blood of seventh-stage realm demonic beast was simply a fatal attraction to those small bugs. Although the giant jungle ape was still roaring and attacking, but everyone had experience and could already tell that the strength of these movements was getting weaker and the frequency was getting slower and slower. Its attention was also getting less and less focused on them. Later on, as the number of wounds increased, the main attacking force was no longer humans, but those bugs. It was until the giant jungle ape started to crazily peel off those bugs on its body that Wang Sheng heaved a sigh of relief. "Bring along those who are injured. Let's go." A deep voice was heard by everyone, and no one dared to delay, as they immediately looked around to see if there were any companions who needed help and got up to leave. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.